Hello. Today is October 15th, and it is Tuesday. We're here with the news.
I think we should start today's news with an applause for one of our own, because we all know how much Krista loves Overwatch. And I think it was really strong of her to delete her Blizzard account. So let's applaud that.
I didn't do it.
What?
I didn't. I did cancel my WoW subscription, but I was going to do that anyway, so.
I guess you don't stand with the people of Hong Kong.
Technically, it's a sunk cost, right?
Oh, Lord. What have we done?
That sounds like justifications.
It does, but I've actually been playing Prison Architect a lot more lately.
I tried to delete my Diablo account, and it was like, no.
Yeah, they won't let you.
I've never had any kind of two-factor on my thing because I literally don't care.
And they want to see your license. It's like a whole thing.
I think the last time I played was a year ago.
Well, you know who else wants to see your license? And every piece of communication that you've permitted or performed in the last, since 2001, I guess. It's the FBI.
Oh, this is from The Hill. The court has ruled that the FBI surveillance has violated Americans' rights. Finally, everything that Snowden and everybody has been fighting for has been validated. We're going to see real change come about as a result of this, right?
I wouldn't be that optimistic.
Yeah, I don't think so what they've said is the only repercussions really, there are no repercussions. There are just some changes going forward. You now have to submit in writing why you want to hit this thing. And I think you don't have to get approval necessarily, but it's limited. So one of the most egregious things they found was some contractor just searched everybody and his family and his girlfriend and himself. He was basically just bored and hitting this database and looking everybody up. That was the kind of thing, and that was not an isolated event. There was a lot of bad things going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have it, it's going to be abused. And next time it will be abused in an untraceable way.
Yeah, now they know.
It's like, I can't do that? All right.
So, yeah. The whole, what if we do this? What if it gets abused? Of course it did. Surprising no one. Amazon has an interesting thing because, they love their workers so much. Not only do they not permit them to pee during the day, but as you leave the warehouse, they basically strip search you and shake you down like a prison facility.
To make sure you're not stealing, which I
exactly,
that's crazy.
Yeah. And some people took offense with that.
The Supreme Court has rejected Amazon's warehouse worker wage appeal. This is a Reuters article, and it cuts off kind of abruptly, but I think what's happening here is that the workers sued under federal law, and under federal law, this is apparently okay for Amazon to not pay you as you go through security checks. But there are state laws that say you should be paid as you go through security checks. It was escalated to the Supreme Court. Something in Oklahoma and Kentucky were combined at the federal level. And so because the Supreme Court has rejected this, that's actually good for the workers and means they're going to get paid under the state law.
I'm not sure. There was a previous case law that said it was okay to do that.
Yeah, but that was federal.
Well, and the warehouse workers said, too, that it wasn't like a 5-minute check. It was literally a 25-minute thing.
It's not that the Supreme Court ruled on it. They refused to hear the case.
Yeah.
So now it gets kicked back down, and it's not
court.
settled.
Yeah.
But, just imagine, all right? Because we've seen that the Amazon warehouse day is grueling, and they're not temperature controlled, right? A lot of them. So you're racing. You got your wristband, which is driving you like it's just whipping you. You can't pee, and at the end of that day, you just want to go home, and you have to go through a 25-minute security gauntlet.
Yeah, there's no incentive for Amazon to make that take a reasonable amount of time. So now they've got an incentive to make it take a reasonable amount of time.
Maybe these guys never watched a movie about the drug scene in the 80s when they were producing crack. Just have your workers work nude.
Simple.
It worked for all those New York drug dealers. So if you have a website and you're a big company, you need to make it ADA compliant. Disabled people need to be able to use your website. And if you don't, they're coming for you.
Los Angeles Times reports that the Supreme Court allows blind people to sue retailers if their websites are not accessible. I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited about having web work from now until through 2022.
Now, this was interesting because the Domino's was at the heart of this, and a blind person was angry because the Domino's online ordering didn't work correctly with screen readers or whatever other technology they were using. Now, Domino's, they made a pretty good argument in my mind, which is we still answer the phone. Call us. That part of the website, you could have found the phone number, but the blind person said no. I should have the exact same level of access as everybody else. You got to fix it.
If this is the site I'm thinking of, I think Domino's had like this really weird. It would have been at home during the Flash era, where it was like a very visual image of like a pizza, and then you like clicked a picture of pepperoni, and it would like animate the pepperoni onto the pizza. Not accessible at all, but it looked cool. That guy missed out on that.
I wonder if they're gonna, like, if you take that to the extreme, it's like now Domino's, if they wanted to implement that, will have to have narration. It's like narrator. The pepperoni is being deposited in a cartoon animation.
Fully like gone back to Flash, where it's got like sound effects too.
Pepperoni 1, pepperoni 2, pepperoni 3. Yeah, well, I think the better solution is just click a button and go to the old version.
Yeah,
the simple version.
Probably.
And the screen reader can handle that. Although, can you imagine how long? Okay, you're adept at navigating the screen reader because you've been doing it for years. You know, you were born blind. You've never known another way. This is normal for you. But still, building a pizza through a screen reader? That's got to take 15, 20 minutes, right?
I think
it depends on how it was done. Like, I wouldn't think it would be terrible.
It would.
Like, you could have like multiple drop downs for different toppings, and then
like maybe a button to add another topping.
Yeah,
there are ways to abuse that.
But then, what about if you want like half and half?
Yeah, I don't know how they
light sauce, extra cheese, well done.
There's going to be some disclaimer text. It's like, if this is getting more complicated than this can handle, you just need to call us.
Or just you can put Skype.
A lot of them have like the little text box. It's like, you know, if you have any special instructions.
I wonder if the court would have found them in compliance if they had stuff in there for a screen reader that is like, if you're seeing this, you're using a screen reader, please call us to place your order. And
I don't think so. I think you have to be able to do it the same way.
Wow.
Well, actually, I don't know. I don't know if we have definitions yet. All they've ruled on is the lawsuit can go forward. So then I guess we'll get some case law that defines all these things.
It'd be cool if you could.
Which we can then, reference when we talk to clients.
If you could just email them, like, I want to order a pizza through email. That would be amazing.
I'm pretty sure you can do that, right?
I don't think so. I think you can.
I
don't think you
can
email. You could fax them. You could fax an order, which I thought was interesting.
With your braille on your fax machine. I think Domino's has added this, right? This is just like because it wasn't there before. I don't know. I can't imagine any company being just say like, no, screw those blind people. We don't want their business.
Yeah.
Certainly not like a large company like this.
Anyway, watch out for that if you're building a website. I don't know what the cutoff is, like how many people your website has to serve.
No, there isn't one.
But it's like public, but what websites aren't public?
Yeah.
I guess if you had a login.
Yeah, and this was also some of the language in here was for like retailers because the laws are accessibility for retail locations. It's like not necessarily this or that, but
5G. 5G is one of the hottest stories of 2019, and it's just a big ball of disinformation. And the carriers are simultaneously hyping 5G as hard as they possibly can, but also not really wanting to talk about the details of 5G.
AT&T and other carriers want to hide detailed 5G maps from the FCC and the public. When they were really pressed on the issue, they said, well, maybe we could give you a map that's like above 5 megabit download and below 5 megabit download. And so this really cuts to the heart of AT&T lying through their teeth about what 5G is, what it's meant to cover, and how it works. Starting with 5GE, which is not 5G, it's 4G LTE. AT&T even comes out and says, well, we think that 5G, when you get coverage for it, it's going to be like good 4G, which is code for it's literally going to be 4G. And they even said that people that live in rural areas not getting 5G, which is probably illegal.
And also probably why they don't want you to see that in map form. Because
Yeah.
it's going to be a big, giant sea of nothing with little red dots over top of the major population centers.
The crazy thing about 5G, though, is that it doesn't go through concrete and steel and walls and crap like that. So in cities, it's really not that great unless you're like in a super densely populated area. So 5G is not really going to be a thing except for in those really densely populated areas where they've explicitly put a tower. And they're not going to spend a lot of money rolling out thousands of towers. We've already talked about that.
Last week we talked about license plates, and well, we talk a lot about license plate readers, but the EFF, was it the EFF?
Yes, it was the EFF.
Won a case, and they got some of that license plate data to see exactly how bad it is. And I'm sure we'll hear more about that after they've had time to mine it. But it kind of uncovers the fact that we're always being tracked by our license plates, and a lot of these law enforcement agencies are sharing that information. So there's like this giant dragnet across the country of people who have committed no other crime than driving.
Spy cloud.
And so a lot of people are angry about that. They're like, oh, we should stop this. But people in government are like, no, we should normalize and regulate it.
Digitized video at Moulton. Digitized driver violations make it easy for states to share info. This is from like WCVB, which is just like, some random station.
Well, it's this guy's
Opinion.
Hometown. No, this lawmaker is from this place.
Yeah. So basically, when you get a parking ticket, every law enforcement agency from, the Barney Fife level all the way up through, the FBI can see that you got a parking ticket because that's useful.
And it'll actually be like a push notification if you're outside of your hometown or wherever you're registered for your vehicle and your license and something happens, they're immediately going to notify electronically your home base. It's like, hey.
It's like if you get a parking ticket in New York and you live somewhere else, they have a hard time collecting that. But now your local police can harass you for that. Isn't that exciting?
Great.
And with those license plate readers, they can share that information as well and really just track you all day, every day. What a beautiful world.
Speaking of a beautiful world.
The big story was Hong Kong. We've all heard about it, but let's rehash it here. Now, a lot of these stories have been constantly updated, so the headlines are a little bit out of date. But I think the primer is people in Hong Kong are angry. I think everybody knows that, right? So all of this is fallout from that. And we actually talked about this last week. There was someone who made a Hong Kong app that directed people to where the protests were and where the police were. So avoid the police, go to the protests. Apple took it down and then put it back and then took it down and then put it back. And it was a big, big scandal. And now they've given us the reasons why.
Tim Cook has defended the decision to remove the Hong Kong Maps app in a memo, and it has been removed once and for all, apparently, because it was removed and put back, and we sort of predicted that it would be removed forever. But it was being used to target police officers, and that put the police officers in danger, which, okay.
You think Tim has seen any of that footage of the cops shooting people?
Literally at point blank range, like just...
I mean, if you prevent one kind of danger to cause another kind of danger. So
it's economically very convenient for Mr. Cook.
Yeah.
The real reason had nothing to do with safety of anybody except for Apple shareholders.
I think that and Kafka is probably the recurring theme of all of the stories in this week's news.
The other big fallout from this that Krista doesn't care at all about, and she just wants to stay on the point no matter what it costs in human freedom or life, was the Blizzard debacle.
After Hearthstone's players ban, Blizzard is in hot water with lawmakers. Although
they're in pretty much hot water with literally everyone on the internet.
Although this article has not been updated, surprisingly, Blizzard walked back a lot of things since this article. So
they did.
Originally, the Hearthstone players ban was a year, and he forfeited his prize money, which I think is really an unnecessary.
And they fired the casters who were interviewing him.
Yeah. So they're giving the guy back his prize money, but it's still a 6-month suspension, and the casters, instead of being fired forever, are fired for 6 months as well. Which is still, that's not,
Still shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bad. And, you know, a lot of people have pointed out that China is such a huge market for these companies that what are they going to do? You know, they're really going to give up that much money?
A lot of people are interested. So I think in like 3 weeks, it's BlizzCon. They want to know what happens at BlizzCon. Like, are they going to be like...
Oh, they've already scheduled the like, you know, pickets and stuff, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure. But like, how much of that will Blizzard allow to be shown on like the streams and stuff?
None.
Yeah.
Although,
no.
3 weeks in the modern, you know, forgetful nature of the world, will we really remember this in 3 weeks?
Well, we will, because we have to report on it. But
Well, but I'm saying, like, you know, the people going to the protests. Will they still have the fire in their bellies?
Well, it's worth reporting that Blizzard's memo actually said this has nothing to do with China, which is one of the most blatantly false things that has been in the news in a long time. And we cover a lot of blatantly false things.
You know, it's so funny. Somebody put together, so the part of their memo said that we just want to keep politics and ideology and that kind of thing out of this. We just want to play games with everybody. And somebody went back and put together all of the LGBTQ crap that they've done over the years. It's like just blatantly shoving it down our throats. And it's like, that's a little bit of an ideology, isn't it? That's political.
Well, they've also done the, I know for Overwatch specifically, you know, Tracer was gay, which was fine. But like, I think in Russia, they changed it so she's not. So like, they just didn't release half the comics. So like, it's not the first time Blizzard just changed it depending on the market.
Well, this wasn't so much the content of the games, because that's fine. I mean, you know, if you create a character, create it however you want. But like the events and the headlines on the webpage and stuff like that, like they were really pushing a political agenda versus silencing a political agenda. But it's obvious that it's all just crap. Apple also,
speaking of crap,
not satisfied to just doom those poor protesters to being shot in the streets, also wanted to take away a little bit of their freedom of expression.
Apple has hidden the Taiwan flag in Hong Kong. I like the checkboxes. You got to show the checkboxes. It's like, what happens when you run out of checkboxes? No, scroll down. Keep going. There you go. All right. So in mainland China, there's no emoji for the Taiwanese flag. There's no keyboard. Can't paste it. Can't copy and paste the flag. It doesn't display anywhere. But in Hong Kong, you can still copy and paste the flag, and it shows up in the auto-suggest thing, and it displays anywhere. So what happens when they run out of checkboxes? Does it just no longer exist there? I mean...
Well, I think probably what's going on there is either they feel this just needs to be temporary until they quell the uprising, or they haven't rolled out the entire thing yet. This was just like, hey, quickly get this off the keyboard. Later we'll erase it entirely like we did in Taiwan.
Do the people in Hong Kong know that, like, if things continue to escalate, China has no problem rolling out the tanks?
Well, no, they hide that fact by silencing any mention of that in the Chinese media. They're very good at this. The Winnie the Pooh memes have just exploded.
They really have.
They're so good.
And they get funnier every time.
So we know that in China and Hong Kong, one of the big things that the Hong Kong people are fighting back against are those facial recognition cameras, which are everywhere, and the tracking and the social credit score and all of that. The big thing is the extradition, but all of it's been a slow burn, I think. That was the tipping point. And China, in the face of all that, you think they might just like take a step away from the despotism for a week or something, you know? No, not at all.
Getting a new mobile number in China will involve a facial recognition test. This is effective December 1st, so this is right around the corner. And the comments, like some of the translated Chinese language comments from this were sort of disturbing. They were like, you know, the last time that we went through invasive security policies, I'm paraphrasing here, of course, but it's like the last time we went through invasive security policies, it was to make it so that we don't get scam calls and telemarketers and things. And we still have those. And this is going to be even more invasive, and they're telling us it's so we don't get scam calls and telemarketers?
They're saying that the problem is...
Those people had their social credit score just tanked after they questioned it.
Well, so that's kind of what they're using to defend it. They're like, hey, if somebody manages to sign up in your name to a mobile phone, we're going to accidentally come after you. You don't want that, do you? So step up and get your face scanned. It's the only way to be safe from us.
Yeah.
So that's... Create a problem and solve it. That's what good government does. So China, as we know, with Huawei, is not in good with the U.S. government, and the trade war is still going on. The trade war is like every day it's, we've got a deal, we don't have a deal. We've got a deal, we don't have a deal. And it's just the stock market just, please make a decision. And this decision is not going to do any favors for that because more have been added.
Reuters reports that the U.S. has expanded its blacklist to include China's top AI startups ahead of trade talks. Not just the AI startups, unless they're referring to like Hikvision or Hikvision as a startup. They're not a startup. They're a $40 billion company. But they do a lot with AI and surveillance. And their cameras run Linux. They're insanely sophisticated. They work really well. They do face recognition. Don't necessarily depend on the cloud. All the processing is done right on the camera, so it scales infinitely. This is probably not good for American companies because Hikvision uses a lot of technology from NVIDIA and Western Digital and a lot of American companies, or a lot of companies that have a lot of American interests. So this seems to be like, even like American companies that did business with Huawei, yeah, there's a lot of those. But these AI companies also do a lot of business with American companies, like a lot more than Huawei. It's probably bad.
Also, blacklist. What is this, a Klan meeting? It's blacklist, Reuters.
Oh, right. My bad.
Twitch.
Oh, we're living in the darkest reality. This story.
Twitch is a fun time because you can watch people play video games or flash their boobs or play with their pets, eat. There's all kinds of things you can watch. Now there's one more kind of thing.
Donald Trump is the newest Twitch streamer. I must have looked over this one in my news list. My brain just mentally
I didn't see this
filtered it
particular
out.
story, but this was all over the internet this week.
I thought it was not real. Like, I thought this is
real.
from Engadget, but yeah.
Donald Trump purple hair win. No, he should do. He should
get the Twitch icon as like the teardrop showing that he.
He should do blue, because if he's orange, he wants the color on the opposite end of the color wheel.
You know what's funny is, like, presumably that channel would get a ton of subscribers, right? So they would have the. You think they're partnered? Ultimately what I'm getting at is, if you could get a MAGA emote, there are a lot of places on Twitch that they'd be like, that's physical violence. So
inciting violence.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going a different direction with that. I thought this would be a great way to launder foreign campaign contributions.
They also pointed out that, like, clearly somebody on Donald Trump's staff, is young and hip and was like, hey, we should just be doing this. And Trump has no idea, right? But would he be as excited about this if he knew this was a Bezos-owned hotbed of liberalism? And plus, he's come out against video games with all the gun violence stuff.
How I want to know, when do Bernie and everyone else start their own Twitch channels?
I think they mentioned that at least one of those was already doing it.
What do you think Elizabeth Warren would stream?
Well, it's just the rallies. So it's the same feed that they're sending to everybody.
Well, if they really want to embrace that lifestyle, they need to,
You got to go full Twitch.
Listen, I don't like Elizabeth Warren at all, but I'd watch her play Dark Souls. There's a lot to say about technical literacy and the lack thereof. And we joke about it a lot. But when you see these, like, you ever watch those man on the street interviews that a lot of people do about, like, your rights and the hot tech topics of the day? And it's just staggering. And you say to yourself, they're cherry picking these. The average person is not that stupid. It's not possible that they are.
And yet, the Pew Research Center has this report, summary, whatever. Americans' digital knowledge. A majority of U.S. adults can answer fewer than half of the questions correctly on a digital knowledge quiz, and many struggle with certain cybersecurity and privacy questions. I think that the people watching this show probably could have passed this by, like, 5th grade.
I do have one big argument with this questionnaire. One of the questions, I argue, has nothing to do with digital literacy. Recognizing a picture of Jack Dorsey? Who cares?
If you could, you should maybe know who he is, but, not. Why would you know him by photo?
You shouldn't.
I know exactly how that question got on there. It was
Sponsored by Twitter.
No, it was the MySpace guy. The person who wrote this is getting a little out of touch with technology, and it was like, would you recognize the picture of like the MySpace guy? Because he was friends with everybody.
Everyone recognized Tom.
Because if you used MySpace and they were like, well, MySpace isn't a thing anymore.
What's the equivalent?
Yeah, and somehow that became Jack Dorsey. And so,
but you're not automatically like following him when you start Twitter. So
that was the worst question. But I figured I think more appropriately and a lot more people would have recognized the cold dead stare of Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
For sure, right? And that's
literally an android.
They did the movie a few years ago too, and like a lot of people saw that. So
you get that little chill when you look into those dead eyes. Like, oh, yeah, I remember him.
It's uncanny valley. It's like we haven't perfected the technology.
California, we talked about was it last week or the week before that Congress they can't get it done. They work so hard, but they just don't have time in 2018 to get these data privacy
2018,
rules.
2019.
I mean 2019 to get these data privacy rules ironed out. So California gets to go forward.
Ignorance is not an excuse. The California draft rules on data privacy have been released. They go into effect January 1 of 2020. That's right around the corner.
So it's like you can always opt out. They have to give you at least 2 different ways to opt out. They can't do the blizzard. You must send a photo ID. For under 13, it's automatic unless they say yes. There's a couple of other things.
16 needs 13 to 16 needs some kind of paperwork.
And delete at any time, no matter what. Opt out at any time, no matter what.
Good copy of your data, like GDPR.
Yeah, and then they have to have notifications on the website. If once you go there, it's like, hey, you know how they do the whole like, hey, we use cookies. Click this X, and you agree to sell your soul. They'll have to do that same kind of thing with stealing your data. So,
neat.
I don't know. It does seem like a massive burden for companies, but you do have to hit a certain number of users before this goes into effect. So, and going forward, California has not satisfied to just legislate on that. They've decided to legislate on everything.
California has banned political deepfakes during election season. I'm not sure when election season isn't. And deepfakes are not named by name in this legislation, but it's basically banning generating any kind of fakery around things that might be political.
Well, it was 60 days, I think, around like an election date for an official.
Yeah, but you get local elections and special elections. And
well, does the candidate that you deepfake have to be in that election?
Yeah, I think that was the rule.
So they're saying that, if you fake something that could affect the election, I don't know who decides that, then that is banned. Can't do it.
Doesn't seem to cover lying, though, foreshadowing.
Well, they did say also
mentioned,
that parody was okay.
Parody and satire are okay. And it said you could even do ones that are deceptive as long as it was like a disclaimer in the video.
Oh, yeah, you could say in the beginning.
Like, this is a deepfake.
You think we'll ever get to a point where it's like, I'm George Bush and I approve this deep fake?
Yeah. And then people won't watch to that point.
Speaking of new laws that have to do with technology, we've got one that's not on the books, but it's trying to be. And it has to do with when you are sold electronics, you need to know certain things that they contain in a day where almost everything contains these 2 items.
Protecting Privacy in Our Homes Act. The subtitle of this is basically, if consumers are being sold a product that contains a microphone or a camera, it needs to be disclosed, like how that's used and what it works for, blah, blah, blah.
And literally, it has to be a certain size font on the packaging. I'm not sure how that works with Amazon, since we buy all of our technology online now. And it says, microphone inside. Hey, this toaster has a camera. Watch out for that.
This toaster can now reorder bread online.
Yeah, I don't see any problem with that one. That one, I mean, it's government overreach, yeah, but can it be abused? Every time I look at one of these stories, I'm like, how are they going to use that against us?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that one. Krista, what if you lived in Venezuela and you had to be subject to this horrible new rule?
It would make my job a little bit harder. Adobe is cutting off users in Venezuela due to U.S. sanctions.
Adobe did clarify that if you use Behance, you can still use Behance after you're cut off.
Well, they're also doing refunds now, probably because they got a lot of heat.
Well, it's just the month, though. Like, it's a
The month
of-
subscription.
Yeah, so, I mean...
Well, they've been able to use it up until now. So this is because of the sanctions. You're not allowed to do business with Venezuela because they are an enemy. And so a lot of people in Venezuela have subscriptions to Adobe, and Adobe's saying, sorry, we got to turn you off.
Doesn't this imply anybody that uses anything like a Microsoft Office?
Yeah, you would think.
Hey, I guess if it's a subscription product, you would have to, right?
Yeah.
So
Blizzard.
Yeah.
this certainly spells out to...
The headline could have been, all of Venezuela supports Hong Kong. And the writer missed that.
This points out
They had an opportunity.
software as a service has its drawbacks, and this is a big one. What if your country goes into economic war with another country? So yeah, you got time. You got till the 28th to download your crap and get it off the Adobe Cloud, and you're
Or
done.
Switch to Krita. Though, again, the text tools in Krita is still not quite there.
Get a pirate.
So if
copy.
you're a designer, that's not ideal. But
We need to do a bake sale for Krita so they can have proper font handling.
yeah, that's like the one thing that they're really working at. That and I think they're still working on Vector as well.
We live in a world of cashlessness, and everybody seems to celebrate that. But there is a darkness, and it lurks very shallowly under the surface, as this poor young lady found out when a uncaring, soulless machine of a system simply chewed her up and spat her out when she tried to go cashless.
Her iPhone died. It led to her being charged as a criminal. The author here...
This is like a very editorialized article.
Yeah, he reads like somebody that's been writing news articles for about 30 years and is grizzled and just a little bit Luddite. But yeah, basically her iPhone died and she used her iPhone's near field thing, Apple Pay, whatever, to get on some kind of mass transit system. And her phone died on like the last leg of her journey. And so the ticket counter guy came through and was like, show me your ticket. And it's like, it's on my iPhone, I can't. But she was actually paid. And then they charged her with theft of a ride. And then it went to court, and she was found guilty, I guess, because the date changed, or I don't know. The article doesn't say.
She said she didn't get a notification, and
She didn't get a receipt.
in absentia, she was convicted, and
Yeah, so it was just months and months and months of headache over not being able to prove that she actually bought a ticket. But she had her bank statement,
Yeah.
and they said that wasn't good enough, and they went ahead with the court case.
She's like, well, is there a place I can log in and get a receipt or anything? And they're like, no. And she was like, well,
What am I supposed to do?
that
Yeah.
might destroy a forest.
it was, I think her fine was like the equivalent of like $560.
Yeah, it's
A
the
lot
whole
of money.
The whole thing was very Kafka-esque, which is going to be the theme for many stories this week.
This would be a great, really quick cuts of a little montage of this whole thing happening over, 30 to 60 seconds, and then just, power bank advertisement.
the ultimate ad for Anchor.
Well, she said she did buy one. She was like, I carry one with me now.
Don't go to prison.
That's the other baffling thing too. Is like, couldn't she just show up with her phone, and like that guide? It's like, I'm gonna have to charge you. It's like, all right, we'll get off at the next stop. We'll go to your office. Surely to God, somebody has an iPhone charger.
Well, somebody on the train. But I think the thing is, those train people are so jaded and like dead
This is like in
inside. They're
London
like,
too, yeah.
Yeah, we don't play these games. And in their defense, which isn't really a defense, because if this is your job, you got to just deal with the soul crushing nature of it. How many people a day are trying to scam them?
Yeah.
So
Unless you just have no memory for faces, though, it seems like it's like the same guy that forgets his ticket every day. It's like, all right, you've forgotten your ticket 17 times now. Get out.
well, but there's probably so many faces. They all just become horrible, awful criminals to you.
Yeah. Yeah, when you work any sort of like when I worked in retail, you didn't pay attention.
Yeah. So when you think of hotbeds of manufacturing technology, of course you think of South Korea, Taiwan, China. China's kind of tapering off.
China.
You might even think about India, right? there's one name that I guarantee is not in that list.
Rwanda just released the first smartphone made entirely in Africa.
This is actually really cool. I thought this was an encouraging story.
Yeah, it was like $130 to $190 for a pretty decent Android phone.
Yeah, they look okay. There's the specs. That only really gives you the storage and, well, I guess that is just the storage, not even the processor. Or the
It has
RAM
the
or
retail in
anything.
Rwanda.
Wow, that's amazing because the people in Africa are paying less for storage upgrade than Apple iPhone users.
And so, but the impressive thing about it is there are other African companies that make smartphones. But like a lot of smartphone companies, they buy the products from various vendors and put them all together. These guys literally make the whole thing from scratch.
Even the packaging. I think that's so cool.
I think they get some of the components, but actually the PCBs and the soldering and all that happens in Africa, so neat.
Way to go, Africa. And Africa is a massive mobile economy. Like everybody has a mobile phone in Africa, and they use them for everything. You think we use them for everything? No. Africa uses them for everything.
It's their primary computation device.
Yeah, so it's a big deal.
How long before there's a revolution in Africa and the battle cry is not seize the means of production, but seize the means of computation?
Team laptops.
I don't know if that
Team
looks good
mobile.
on like a tweet or a t-shirt.
It's tough to make that into an acronym.
Yeah.
Moving on to social media, Facebook last week came out with an announcement that they will not do any sort of censoring when it comes to political ads. You can say whatever you want in a political ad. True or not, they're not going to vet it. Just do it. And some of the campaigns are not super happy about that.
CNBC is reporting that Facebook has rejected the Biden campaign's request to remove Trump ads containing false information. Long story short, there's a really long letter, a really long response from Facebook on this. And they say, nope, it's up to the campaigns to vet this. And if the campaign's doing it, then whatever. How is this a lot different than like the Russian ads that were run?
How is this different than political ads going back to the dawn of television?
I was going to say, because like, wouldn't your precedent there be like television, and how like, do television stations have to verify that it's not false? Because I don't think so.
No.
They make out like television stations do, but the reality is that most television stations don't care.
Every election, you have competing sets of ads that are contradictory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So somebody's lying, right? It's always been like that. And I hate to defend Facebook, but I think they sort of looked at that and they're like, okay, if we weigh in on this, then we have to be the arbiter. And we're going to be blamed of being biased no matter how it goes.
Yeah.
So let's just throw our hands up.
I like how Elizabeth Warren handled that, though. Is that the next story? Elizabeth Warren targets Facebook's ad policy with a Facebook ad. So Elizabeth Warren's ad is literally like Mark Zuckerberg has come out in support of Donald Trump. And so she's testing all right, you want to like not do the ads? Let's do it. So I'm reminded of a Mark Twain quote, which is never get in an argument with an idiot. They'll drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. Something like that. So, yeah.
Is
Look how
Elizabeth
there's
Warren
no
the
light in
idiot?
his eyes.
I think there's a little bit of idiocy on both sides. I don't know which one's the bigger idiot.
Look at his eyes.
Yeah, that's why I think he should have been the one on the survey, because that is just a cold, dead stare.
There's literally like, our eyes reflect light. It's just there's black.
Is devour it
Yeah. There's nothing there.
to hide the machinery, to hide the clockworks behind it. We talked last week about Libra, the big Facebook cryptocurrency that was going to take over the world, and PayPal noped right on out because they saw a lot of heat coming from a lot of different places, and they're like, hey, you know what, guys? PayPal doesn't need any more of this nonsense. We're out. And it seems like a lot of the other sheep were just waiting for that first one to jump the fence.
Facebook's Libra cryptocurrency coalition is falling apart as eBay, Visa, Mastercard, and Stripe jump ship. This started with
Yikes.
eBay. Like on Monday last week, it was like eBay, and then by the end of the week, everybody was like, "Nope, we're out."
There goes all your credibility. Like,
Yeah, I think that was the big thing about, because like Bitcoin, the problem is you got to transfer it, you got to get it back to cash, you got to pay fees at every level. But with this, you could literally just buy it and use it, and that was going to be the huge thing. And I think that's the thing that the government was like, wait a minute, that's real money, and no, we don't like that. So he also has to testify to Congress. Did that already happen?
No, he's got to go again. So I don't think that's happened yet.
But it's about Libra this time.
Probably by the time you're watching this, it's happened maybe, but if not, you'll hear about it next week.
So that's going to be funny because if you remember the first time he testified to Congress and you saw it's like, they don't understand anything about this. And with cryptocurrency, they understand even less.
It's interesting, though, because what they were proposing to do with Libra as like a transactional block system, I think they could have just not tried to board the cryptocurrency bandwagon and still been able to accomplish the same thing. Because like if Facebook just buys Western Union or MoneyGram, they would be able to do that right now. I think MoneyGram's got a partnership with like Walmart. So you can send anybody money anywhere that has a Walmart, which is crazy.
Yeah, but he wants...
worldwide.
No, because think about this. I mean, he's already got more money than God, but when Libra comes out and he buys a massive chunk of it, and then it goes to $1,000, that's 1,000% increase.
Well, Libra could be powering that under the hood and no one would know about it, and then he could get everybody using it as like a money system. And then
no way, because Western Union absolutely has to be operated like a bank, right? There's regulation there.
I don't think there's that much regulation. Maybe somebody in chat could tell us.
Everything settles in U.S. dollars on Western Union.
Yeah, that's true.
No way can you use funny money for that.
Yeah, that's true that it does settle in U.S. dollars, but
so this is actually piggybacks on the technical illiteracy story. This was one of the questions, and it was less than 50%, which on one hand, scary maybe, but on the other hand, maybe if these people just don't care about any of this, I applaud them.
Most Americans don't know that Facebook owns Instagram and WhatsApp. I think that the article should have made clear that they asked users if they use those apps, and then if they use those apps, did you know that Facebook owns that? Oh no, but it's not clear that that's what happened.
Which is weird because a couple of months ago they announced that they were going to change them to Instagram by Facebook and WhatsApp by Facebook, which seems like the stupidest move.
But maybe that's because they were upset people didn't know what they were.
But why would you want them to?
Yeah.
It's a poison brand.
Well, it's like, especially too, even just from like trying to get users. So like Instagram still has a little bit of a reputation of being like hip with the kids. Facebook though, it's like, oh, that's what my grandma uses to like post cookie recipes. I don't want to use something that's associated with Facebook.
That's like taking the IBM logo and changing it to IBM, we worked with the Nazis. Let's forget that. Let's try to keep that a secret. Facebook has the tagging system with their advertising. And so you can go in and be like, hey, I want to find people who are interested in crocheting and advertise to them. And it's really, really like in-depth. There's a lot of tags. And when it comes to children, you're not allowed to use certain tags to advertise to, but they do still exist, which is a little weird and creepy.
Children interested in gambling and alcohol, according to Facebook's algorithm.
And chain smoking.
Has there ever been a time when children weren't interested in gambling and alcohol?
Yeah, I did kind of, I was like, okay.
Yeah, well, of course.
Haven't we reported on countless children's apps where like the children ran up charges of hundreds and hundreds of dollars, like a buying crap in the app because it's got that closed circuit of gambling addiction feedback?
Yeah, well, because kids are stupid. But they did point out that there could be like anti-gambling ads that you could run that would use these tags. So maybe they have a less than nefarious purpose in the world, but still kind of weird that you can go in and be like, hey, I want to find kids that want to drink and are 16.
Somebody that I went to school with I was helping them with something, and they have a budget in their iPad for their kids that's like their kids actually can spend $5 or $10 a week on their on their like ad, and they're like, look, we're in a long car ride, it keeps the kids quiet, I'm happy to pay $5 for that.
That's disgusting.
A week?
Yeah, I mean,
seems
it's
like
just
a lot to spend on like a game a week.
Yeah.
Another big tragedy this week, however, it's funny because I asked these guys about it Friday night, and they were like, well, maybe I heard something about that, but
yeah, there wasn't a lot.
Wasn't really sure, which is weird because the last time this happened, now, to be fair, the last time was a lot more severe, But the last time this happened, everybody lost their mind. And this time it happened. And really, I mean, CNN Business, not CNN.com, CNN Business. Why is this pushed down to like page 23? Maybe because it's in a country that already has gun control?
Germany's shooting suspect appears to have live streamed the attack online. So this is not dissimilar from other gun attacks that there have been in the past. And to your point, there really wasn't a lot of coverage about it.
Very little.
Even though it was streamed online.
Now, this guy only got 2 people, but it was live on Twitch, and he apparently had some anti-Semitic ramblings during the whole thing. So it was one of those, like, obvious hate crime, live streamed, used a gun, but we don't really care about this one because it doesn't forward.
Because it happened in Germany. Because Germany already has the laws.
Yeah, and that's not sick. We can't really. Greta's not going to cry about this one. So let's move on to the next story. Have you heard about Trump? He's wacky and stupid. Instagram. No, I don't use Instagram, but this is hilarious. I didn't realize this was a thing. The following tab. So people don't seem to realize that I can go to your Instagram profile and click on this following thing and see all the stuff that you're creeping on and all the, big butt implant girls that you're liking every day. And apparently that's causing some strife in relationships.
Horny people, you're free. Instagram's following tab is gone. No longer can you cringe while seeing your friends' coworkers' thirsty late night likes. This is from BuzzFeed, of all places.
So let's show it here.
Yeah, Krista, you and I have talked about this because, you use Twitter.
Yes.
And I use Twitter, and you go through there, and it's like, so-and-so liked something, and it's like, well, what is that? And you click on it, and it's like, oh.
Oh, no. Yeah. Well, and yeah, I wish Twitter would get rid of it, honestly, because I really don't care what people I follow are, interacting with, but Twitter thinks that I want to know.
Some of the people that I follow definitely have no idea that is happening. That when they like something, that it's like so and so liked whatever, and it's like, okay, I'll check that, and then it's like, oh,
or you don't know that.
That's a big booty thought.
They might just be proud.
They may just not care. Yeah.
Listen, I love big asses, and I don't care if Wendell knows.
Well, listen. You're also.
Some of the things are much darker than that.
Oh, I've never seen it. Usually it's just the thirsty stuff, but sometimes it's from married men, and I'm like.
Well, they pointed out that some of the most contentious ones were you were not replying to someone, but you were liking thought posts during that time, and they could see that, and you might not realize that that's what's going on. They're like, oh, I was busy.
It requires effort to respond to you. I'm not going to deal with this right now. I've been guilty of that a few times, a lot, daily.
Well, don't do it on Twitter or Instagram. And finally, in the surprising no one section of the news is Twitter. Now, Twitter will harass you because I don't give them one. And they're like, hey, you really should give us a phone number.
Yeah, they really want it.
It's super critical that you give me a phone number. I need it for security.
Twitter took phone numbers for security and used them for advertising. They posted some cryptic info online, and some people started pulling at that hole in the tapestry, and by the time the wall came down, it was like, oh yeah, no, we were using phone numbers for advertising for a long time.
It was an accident. It was a long accident.
A years-long accident.
So they're saying, no, you still need to give us that phone number. It's still super important for security. We'll never do this again. But we have been doing it for a long time and making money off of it.
I'm sure Twitch is doing the same thing. Twitch makes me angry because they require that two-factor now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
I understand the problem there because we have a partnered account.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and people, God, do they love to go after the thoughts on Twitch and either stalk them because they're in love with them or stalk them because they hate them for their beauty or whatever. It's
foreshadowing. Yeah. We shouldn't laugh about that. It got kind of sideways this week.
So I can kind of forgive them for that, but it is super annoying when the three of us need to use the same account. I guess they didn't prepare for that. Whatever. And that's all we got
for this episode.
What we got tomorrow?
Business and security.
Neat.
Hello. Today is October 16th, and we're here with business and security. I said that like a question because I couldn't remember
you got
topics. I did.
Mine like a steel trap.
Yeah, just not forgetting basic things immediately.
It's
Ah.
a week doesn't go by that we don't talk about good old Comcast, and it's time after time. We're so conditioned at this point to just feel like, okay, so what? Yeah, they did it again. Big whoop.
Comcast incorrectly charged 2,000 customers for exceeding the data cap. 2,000 customers is a lower bound here. Comcast will not tell us how many customers were actually charged. This is also not the first time we've reported this. This happens quite regularly. Comcast said, oh, this was so widespread, we're going to issue credits and refunds.
And you get extra $50
Yeah.
for your troubles, which is good for half your data cap next time.
Yeah, this article names the specific number of, like, most of the Comcast markets that actually do charge you when they go over a data cap. And it's something insane, but you can pay $50 more and they won't charge you when you go over, but they'll still complain about it.
So one guy figured out, he was like, there is no way I'm using that data. It's not happening. He called him up and they were like, sir, you're using it. Don't argue. Do you know we're Comcast.
Do you know who we are?
We will not tolerate your insolence.
Obviously, you're an idiot customer.
So he was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to be out of town. I'm just going to pop that cable out of the wall and we'll see. I'll look at my meter when I get back. 40 gigabytes. That's what he spent when he had unplugged his modem. So after proving that, they actually looked into it. Yeah, technical glitch.
Meanwhile, there's forums on the internet are just littered with people being like, I don't understand how I went over my data cap. I don't understand.
And coming in a close second to Comcast is AT&T, who, when it comes to extra fees, data caps are nasty, right? But at least you can kind of understand them, except for when they cheat and lie about them. But this one, no one can understand this one.
AT&T raises prices by 7%, making its customers pay AT&T's property taxes. So there's this article is about a guy that entered into a contract with AT&T after Comcast was screwing him on a promotion or something. And it was $95 a month for his service. And all of his contracts, his paperwork doesn't say anything about any extra fees. So then he got an extra fee that was a 7% increase like 2 or 3 months after he started a 1-year contract. There had been no previously there were no fees. And then he got a fee that was about 7% of his bill that was like AT&T is recouping property taxes. And it's like, that doesn't even seem, that's not ethical. And how are they allowed to do this? Is this a result of Ajit Pai's FCC? Because I feel like it is. Somehow Ajit Pai is involved here.
He personally put that tax on there.
Like, there was probably a call that was like, we're going to do this. Are you okay with this? And he's like, sounds good to me. That's actually brilliant. I mean, that's...
Good job, guys.
What an amazing way to deliver value to shareholders. It's incredible.
Like, the real question is there anything I can do? Because I want to be a part of it.
Dude's bill went up 7%. And it's like, wait, we're in a contract. And they're like, no, this kind of thing is completely okay when you're under this kind of contract. We can just arbitrarily increase it. And then Ars Technica said, what market are they in that their property tax would go up 7%? Is it possible that the property tax actually went up 7%? Spoiler alert, no. There's no chance that the AT&T's property taxes went up 7% year over year. They're going to pocket the extra money. That seems like that's fraud. Doesn't that seem like fraud? Like, if a citizen were doing this, that seems like it would be fraud.
This picture's great.
It really is.
I assume they photoshopped in the stripes, right?
Yeah. That's definitely a filter tool.
Yeah, that's supposed to be like AT&T's Death Star logo, but yeah.
Pretty good job, Ars Technica.
Definitely fraud.
So we talked about Blizzard and the people of Hong Kong, who Krista doesn't care anything about.
Right.
She would rather capture the point than capture democracy. But other game companies, having seen the epic backlash, I screwed that up.
We're just stumbling over words today.
Have weighed in and said that they will not make the same mistake.
Unlike Blizzard, Epic Games says it won't ban players for political speech. The real surprise here, Epic has a much larger ownership percentage of the Chinese company Tencent than Blizzard. It's like 5% versus 49%.
Well, I think that's kind of why they felt they had to get in front of it. So like, okay, we're Chinese owned, but we're going to let you say whatever you want to say. Don't worry. So, I guess that's good. think there was a couple other companies said some things too, right? I can't remember who they were, but kind of sad that you have to explicitly come out and say in 2019, hey, you can go ahead and say what you want without fear of being erased or your money clawed back or banned or whatever. Blizzard employees themselves made a bit of a sad effort, honestly. I'm going to say, to make their own statements about the whole situation.
Blizzard employees stage a walkout over the Hearthstone Pro player ban. This happened before Blizzard changed their position to re-award the guy the prize money, but not a lot of Blizzard employees walked out. It didn't make the news in a lot of places.
I think it was like 24.
Yeah.
Well, and they did I don't know if it was the same group, but someone also put like a piece of paper over the sign outside. Like there was a statue that said like every voice matters, and someone just like erased it.
Yeah. In a very non-permanent way.
Yeah.
After Blizzard walked it back, next week they should only walk halfway out. Because that's...
Or only 12 people instead of 24 should walk out. It's like, all right.
Some people have come out in the wake of all this and said, oh, you guys are surprised? We've been dealing with this for years.
Apple told some Apple TV show developers not to anger China. So yeah, Apple TV in developing their product, in preparing this, prepared a lot of helpful documentation about like, don't show China in a negative light, don't, bring attention to any of the stuff that's going on over there. It was a helpful memo. So clearly Apple knows about this kind of stuff internally.
Yeah, and they know that the Chinese government will not tolerate it. And I know we've said this before, but it bears repeating. The thing to remember here isn't that like China's bad and we need to, walk out and boycott and whatever. I mean, do that if you feel like it. But the thing you have to remember is these are not American companies. These are global corporations.
Yeah. They
don't really care. As long as the money's there, and China is a massive market, they're gonna do what they have to do to be there. That's how it's working. And when you identify with these corporations like Apple, like, oh, look at my Apple products. I'm such a proud, and I'm a hipster, and they're forward thinking and they're woke and they love the trans people. No, they love money.
And there was a lot of that in this article of like, I can't believe they would do this.
Yeah, and if the people of Hong Kong have to get shot for them to make that money, guess what?
It's probably also worth mentioning that the situation in China is such that the physical office, like the Blizzard office employees, could potentially face arrest if they don't do what is commanded. So like if you're a global multinational and you care about the people in your regional office, that might also shape what you have to do to get them out.
But knowing that, you still staff people there because it's cheap.
Yeah.
So it's always a choice.
Yeah.
Google is not immune to all this. They had their own little tiny outrage, although it was mostly looked over because, look at what the other people were doing. But still.
Google has pulled a Hong Kong protester game from the store. This game was the definition of poor taste. And Google said, we're just going to pull this. And they cited a clause in their terms of service that said that developers can't take advantage of potentially sensitive situations that are developing around the world. Which
was it in poor taste, though? I didn't see it.
I didn't see it
I read
either.
the description. It was basically like a text adventure.
Yeah,
where you tried to make decisions for the protester.
You had to like gather weapons or like avoid a thing. And the description that I read of the game, I didn't see it in operation, but the description I read of the game seemed like it was in poor taste.
I can see how they just wouldn't want anything to do with this. And I guess because it was a paid game, it does point more toward money grab. But I don't know if for sure it was.
Well, that developer can do an experiment, re-release it as a free game, and let's take a look.
Ad supported.
Post it on GitHub.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if it was ad supported and Blizzard bought ads on it?
Oh.
Diablo Mobile.
This isn't any fun. You should be playing Diablo.
Y'all have phones, don't you?
We talk a lot about the inherent insecurity of unsecured traffic on the internet. And Google is kind of at the vanguard of let's just encrypt everything. That solves the problem, right? And it does, which is why ISPs are terrified of it.
Why big ISPs are not happy about Google's plans for encrypted DNS. DNS over HTTPS will make it harder for ISPs to monitor or modify DNS queries. ISPs' arguments here are that in order for CDNs and local caching and things like that to work, they need to be able to modify DNS records. But companies like Netflix have no intention of encrypting the DNS records that are used for that kind of stuff. Like Steam, for Steam caching, ISPs can save a lot of bandwidth by caching Netflix movies and Steam games locally in the ISP's office. It doesn't have to hit the internet. Those companies are not planning to encrypt that type of DNS traffic, so that is a lie. This is an easy way for ISPs to see what your habits are online so they can sell demographic data and ad data.
And to inject. Remember that, which was it, Comcast, that was just popping ads in?
Oh, yeah, an unencrypted. That was an unencrypted HTTP traffic, but yeah, same kind of thing.
And selling that data. Now, they also said that Google was just trying to hijack, because Google offers DNS servers. They're like, no, Google wants to run all the traffic through their server and collect that data. And I'm sure that, was brought up at the meeting, but Google was smart enough to be like, no, we can't do that. That's too far. Maybe next year. But we can't do that right now. So
you can do the same kind of thing with OpenDNS or any other DNS provider. It's easy to do. You can even, there is a big push for like if you just have a domain name that you implement DNS security for the domain, the parts of your domain name that should be secure to prevent spoofing or anything else.
Here at Level 1 Techs, we are old and out of touch. And as such, we don't get into any of the mobile gaming.
It's
at
terrible.
Least, I don't think, right?
Mobile gaming is just terrible.
Other than like Pixel Dungeon?
Pixel Dungeon is awesome. Like that kind of a game for mobile is great. This kind of a game for mobile, terrible.
But you say it's terrible, and clearly...
You don't know.
Yeah.
That's like saying country music is terrible. I agree with you, but a lot of people don't. And we can't, it's subjective. So we can't make those blanket statements. And this just proves that.
Call of Duty Mobile smashes records with 100 million downloads in the first week. There were a lot of people streaming this. There were a lot of people streaming how to set up streaming with this so that you can stream from your phone.
Wow. Millions of parents cry over their data plan.
A lot of branches in that rabbit hole. So yeah, and this was mostly just the Western world, right? It's not in China yet.
Yeah.
So that's going to be another huge boom when they get it in China. So I don't get it, but it's out there and people love it.
I assume I was gonna say, I assume it's people who don't have other like consoles or PCs or stuff like.
That's what I was going to say. I believe this is free.
Yeah.
This is ad supported, so that makes sense.
I could see also that people will play that when they have no choice. It's like, high school students, like they don't have a laptop or anything else, or it's too obvious that they're playing a game on their laptop. But playing a game on their phone, they can sneak and do that.
But the data fees there.
Yeah, that would be.
It seems like that would be bad.
It's got to be massive, right? Do you think one of those Rwandan phones could run Call of Duty Mobile?
Well, most schools probably have Wi-Fi, so you can probably get the phone on the Wi-Fi. They haven't figured out how to block it yet, probably, because they've got encrypted DNS.
They'll do, like at the beginning of the semester, you pay $200 to cover your kids' mobile gaming while they're eating lunch. Rwanda phone. You think Rwanda phone runs that?
No.
It doesn't have the graphical
No,
for that.
yeah. They're missing out. They can play Pixel Dungeon, though.
Yeah. Or Plague Inc. I liked Plague Inc. on the phone. It was all right.
Like I said, we're out of touch. We don't know what the youth of America is into. We're confused and scared of it.
That's why the algorithm is sending people away.
I'm literally, when I see those people with those like ear spacer things, I'm just like, oh, I physically recoil. And I realize that makes me just like a bitter old man. But I can't stop it. It's who I am. And this is another one where the teens have shifted into a new paradigm that we don't understand.
Teens choose YouTube over Netflix for the first time, according to a new survey.
I actually understand that. That makes sense.
Yeah, actually,
to me.
I'm probably like Netflix is #1 by a long shot for me as well.
So, yeah. Teens like content on Netflix. Google was aware of this. That's why they started trying to do like YouTube Red and YouTube Originals. But teens don't really care about that either.
No, they're choosing YouTube over Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense because, sure, Netflix has a lot of options, but does it have a guy who's reviewing crossbows? No. And that's the kind of content I want.
And the FPS Russia guy's not gonna. He'll be out of jail soon, probably.
It's
awkward silence there.
only been a couple of years How many years has it been? I bet it's been like way more
A lot.
than I'm comfortable with realizing.
Yeah, since the
But-
PlayStation 4.
I managed to skip this entire console generation. So, again, old and bitter. But now a new one is upon us.
Sony confirms PlayStation 5 name and a holiday 2020 release. That's not this Christmas, that's next Christmas.
What's coming out this Christmas, though? I need to buy something.
New processors.
Yeah, well, nothing in the console world. Well,
That's unacceptable.
They got a new kind of Switch, but it's just basically the same Switch. Now, the one thing that excites me about this is they've gotten rid of the Rumble and they've decided to go with haptic feedback, which includes dynamic trigger buttons. I've always thought it would be super cool if the trigger for a gun in a video game could have a break point like a real trigger. And if you yank it like a real trigger, your shot would go off. Someone needs to do that. Teach these Call of Duty kids that guns don't work like that. Trigger discipline. And then when somebody streams on Twitch and murders people, they'll be really good at it.
Oh.
Speaking of video game consoles, some of them might turn out to be vaporware.
Atari VCS lead architect quits, claims 6 months of design work went unpaid. This was like one of the first stories we covered on the Level 1 news. And the fact that this console is still not out, there's a serious problem somewhere. The dudes could literally fly to China, get this thing made in about 3 weeks.
But the guy who quit was one of the original Xbox guys.
Yeah.
So he wasn't just some scrub who they found, you know, what's the Chinese kid's name?
He sung?
He sung. It wasn't he sung. This guy had some real clout. But yeah, he was like, I really wanted to be dedicated to this project. I wanted to see it through, but it's been 6 months and they haven't paid me. And I don't think it was just him. I think like he had a company that was doing, and his whole company was, and he was out of pocket paying those people.
I'm surprised that it lasted for 6 months. Honestly, after the first month, I'd be like, yeah, we're done here.
But I remember when they brought this out, we thought, was that just going to be a retro thing? And it was like, no.
They talked about it running Android, which made no sense.
Or is it going to be like Play Store, like you say? Or are we going to run and they were like, no, it's none of those things. But we're not going to tell you what it is. So it's nothing. Sad. Here's a cool new feature. When we used to stream on Twitch, we used to do multiplayer games only, and it's kind of weird that there's not as many 3 to 4 player multiplayer games as you would think. You run through the library pretty quickly.
People ask us all the time, can you play this? It's like, we've played that before.
Yeah.
We've literally played like almost every game on Steam that's multiplayer.
And it's kind of frustrating because some of the games you'll see and it's like, oh, 4 player. Oh, it's local co-op only. Well, there's a solution.
Steam's next big feature will make any local multiplayer game work online. The late October launch supports up to 4 computers and requires only 1 copy of the game. So this is like the split screen thing. You remember like GoldenEye for the Nintendo, Super Nintendo?
64.
Nintendo 64. Yeah, it's like that, except it just automatically knows and figures it out. That's neat.
Pretty cool.
Supposed to be the end of the month.
It's basically that same technology as the streaming from a more powerful computer to another screen.
It seems like this would be really problematic for games like Broforce, though.
I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of delay.
I think Broforce has legit multiplayer, though, so maybe it's okay.
But what's the Stadia, right?
Oh, yeah.
How popular is that?
It's going to be insanely popular.
Isn't it out?
It's not in wide release.
But that whole thing, if you can do that, you can do this, right? No different. So, pretty cool. Tell us how it works for you, although it won't be out by the time you watch this.
It will be out in a few weeks, though.
SpaceX, we talk a lot about SpaceX, and they really do make rapid progress. I mean, they're constantly launching those rockets and landing them and doing cool stuff.
Fail fast.
Running old people out of their homes. They get it done, and they get it done quick. And NASA is saying, hey, it's time.
NASA aims for the first manned SpaceX mission in the first quarter of 2020, if things go on schedule. Things never go on schedule with Elon Musk, so probably summer 2020.
The big thing that's yet to test, the parachutes. They don't work quite right yet.
Fail fast.
Are those the individual parachutes or like the capsule parachutes?
Capsule.
Okay.
The actual human beings are the ones that they're worried about.
Is the capsule going to try to do a safe landing on a platform? And if that doesn't work, then they parachute?
I think the parachutes are a fail-safe.
Okay.
Yeah. But
I don't know how confident I'd feel doing this for the first time, but
We don't need the parachute.
Well,
It's going to land on the platform.
they're going to test it a bunch of times first, but the first test didn't go that great.
yeah.
So
Listen, if it doesn't land on the platform, it's going to land in the ocean at 200 miles an hour. They'll probably be fine.
it's good. You know what's going to cushion the fall? Old people living in that community that they're trying to buy that won't sell them their houses. New form factors. We're kind of getting hit with a lot of new form factors for phones right now. We got the Fold phone, we got the Duo, and
Keyboard phones.
It seems like the big giant phablet phones are shrinking back down.
Yeah.
But this company has something totally unique.
Essential reveals Project Gem, a smartphone with a very long, very unusual design. The guy that designed this is the guy that did the Sidekick for T-Mobile. So he's like, he wants us to rethink phones. It's like,
I don't know how I feel about this.
Show the remote for the air conditioner. There it is. So now these they're kind of sexy. Look at the backs of them.
I mean, they're pretty. I don't know. As a designer, I'm frustrated because it's like, oh, it's another damn screen size to design for.
Yeah, that width, no website is going to display properly on that width. That's ridiculous.
I went through looking for pictures of somebody typing something to somebody else with one of these. There's not any.
Oh, yeah, the keyboard.
Yeah.
You know what would have to do? You'd have to turn it sideways, and the keyboard would have to split.
Yeah.
Which you could get good at that.
That might not be terrible, but that's probably why they don't show it, because like the traditional keyboard with that, terrible experience.
Would not work, yeah.
Yeah, that's I didn't even think about the web browsing. That is going to be a nightmare for that thing.
It's a whole new fresh hell for us to enjoy as developers.
Yeah, apparently not even Android can render properly. They're having to work on like special versions to get it to fit in that crazy form factor.
Well, obviously that will have been worth the effort and totally won't, result in a unsupportable device that's dead in a year and a half.
It's like a nice concept. It's like something that looks nice in your portfolio on Behance, but in real life, it's not really totally feasible.
We'll see.
Unless you can like stretch it somehow and then compress it. Like maybe there's some kind of display technology where it's like.
Yeah, but now we're in that Samsung world of like, it's never going to work. It's going to last for 120,000 folds.
It's like, some of the pixels are messed up.
Yeah. We talked about the people are angry about the multiple cameras that go in today's smartphones to make those giant pictures. And they're afraid of them, and Chris is afraid of them.
I'm not afraid of those. I have tryptophobia. This doesn't trigger it though.
But there might be a solution that can save our poor people. We had a lot of YouTube commenters that supported that. They hated it.
Researchers created a lens 1,000 times thinner to hopefully eliminate ugly smartphone camera bumps. So instead of a curved lens, it's numerous submicroscopic concentric rings that have different optical properties that combine the light like a curved lens would, but is actually flat.
I resented the fact that like in the beginning of this article they're like, sometimes function has to take precedent over aesthetic, and I was like, that's the way it should be though. Like what?
It needs to work well first.
Yeah.
So they compare it to the solar boilers, where like each solar panel is slightly different angle to focus on the center boiler to make the electricity. So it's that kind of thing where the lens is not a smooth curve, which is interesting. I wonder if that results in any kind of weird like blurring or stretching at the edge of large photos or anything like that.
Does this really like? Is anyone like, I really wanted that new iPhone with the new cameras, but it has a slight bump and it really bothers me.
Yeah, apparently people are they're freaking out because the scary spider eye.
That doesn't necessarily fix it though, like because they want to have the 3 types of cameras, like they would still have to have.
But it'll be flush with the phone.
It still would produce the tryptophobic effect.
Oh,
I would think so. Yeah.
So I thought the problem was not the big holes, but these little holes that are created because of the.
No. I think even if those were sunk down, you would still get that effect.
Well, there's just no pleasing you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't bother me, but I mean, if you're tryptophobic, tell us in the comments.
We can use the extra room on the inside created by not having to have a stack of those elements like that to put in a tiny mechanical apparatus that spins. So instead of having to have 3 cameras, we can have 1 camera that has a rotating interchangeable lens.
How about
That just seems like something that you're introducing something that can mechanically fail.
But no, how about this? Frosted glass that only unfrosts when it's turned away from you. So you never have to see the horror that's lurking below.
A literal Schrodinger's lens of
They do that in dressing rooms. They have those doors that like frost.
Exactly,
when you
right.
close
Yeah.
it,
So you don't know what's under there. It's not scary holes. Don't think about it.
But how do you take a selfie, Ryan?
there's spiders under this frosted glass.
Well, can you use the front camera for selfies?
Oh yeah, I guess you would.
Which
The front
doesn't-
camera sucks though.
Well, once again,
Not on the new iPhone 11.
Oh.
It's got the new.
there's just no satisfying you and your whole phobia. We have had story after story this year and a little bit last year of men in power who maybe don't quite understand that there are rules that are getting more and more strict about how you interact with other people and even say things. You don't have to actually necessarily do something to someone. You just make a really poorly timed and thought out comment.
Wall Street Journal has this article about the Red Hat CFO has lost out on a retention bonus of like $4 million following a standards-related ouster. So they were dismissed from IBM as the CFO, and we don't have any details on what exactly happened here, but it may have created liability for the company.
Well, they do say it was workplace related. So you got to think that it's the mind, and we don't have any evidence of this. This is pure speculation, but the mind immediately goes to sexual misconduct. Maybe a racial slur.
Maybe both. Who can say?
Maybe he went on an insulting spree like in RimWorld.
I hate when they do that.
Yeah,
There are consequences.
that's tough. That always results in a fist fight.
It's too bad in RimWorld you can't create like a box that's like, it's like lock them in the box for a day and they'll learn not to do that. So you're okay.
You know, they tried that with autistic kids, and there was some outrage.
I thought that was like a preferred therapy for autistic children because like
Locking them in a box.
well, not lock. Okay, taking them out of an overwhelming situation and putting them in a quiet, dark space.
I think the lock was the
problem.
Yeah, that was the issue. Electric cars don't make noise. I mean, they make a little bit of noise, but they don't make much noise. And we've already seen some lawsuits and people worried about, it's like, hey, because let's face it, most people are staring at their phone, right? And you're staring at your phone. The Tesla is letting the car drive while he, makes a milkshake. And you don't see it. The car doesn't stop. What needs to happen here? Clearly, they need to make stupid noises.
Bizarre but true, Tesla cars soon to have fart and goat noises to warn pedestrians. Tesla's reportedly started to roll out the pedestrian noisemaker for the Model 3 sedan. The noisemakers are designed to produce a sound when the electric vehicle is running below 30 kilometers an hour in the forward and reverse direction. So the reverse direction actually will have even a different sound because people don't necessarily know that the Tesla is backing up.
Oh, that's going to seem so clever and fun when your car is farting for the first 10 minutes. And then you're going to think about stop and go traffic and everybody's car is farting and goat noising.
I have to say, that would probably be funny to me. But I'm a
again,
child.
again for 10 minutes. It's going to be funny for 10 minutes. And some people are going to be obnoxious and they're going to get like nails on a chalkboard or baby crying.
Oh.
Yeah, this is going to go bad. Now in Europe, got to give it up to Europe. They were like, no, it's going to be a car noise. Make a car noise, idiot. That's all you get.
We should hack that and make it like Pip Pip Cheerio or something. It's like,
This is America, land of the free. You can make your car fart if you want.
Well, I guess I have to agree that we shouldn't. Your car farting is free speech, but it's stupid and you shouldn't do it.
I'm going to do it. I don't own a Tesla, but if I did.
You're going to buy one just for that?
Just for that
Spend 50
feature.
grand so you can make your car fart.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Oh, so, Wendell, imagine you were told on Wednesday, hey, on Saturday, no power.
that would be difficult.
Prepare.
Yeah.
Get your batteries charged.
Yeah, you would get like a laptop. You would be fine.
Yeah.
Well, not everybody was as prepared. This story doesn't talk about it, but because this was like before it happened. It did happen.
There's a guy that died.
One guy died.
Yeah.
Utility giant PG&E voluntarily shuts off power. It could impact 800,000 California customers. There was a dude that was really, really sick and on oxygen, and he didn't make it to his battery-powered thing in time, so he died.
So they're doing this because of wildfires. There were supposed to be like really high winds, I think, last week, and as a preemptive measure, like we're just gonna cut the power to the lines so that way, when they inevitably fall, because we haven't upgraded the infrastructure, it won't cause a forest fire.
Yeah, the last time it happened, it did kill like 20 or 30 people.
Yeah.
Well, that was the campfire, right? And they were blamed for that. So I think they may be in the right place here, although there were a ton of tweets of people like, hey, it's a gentle breeze. Why is my power off? There's no wind.
It's like, listen, those transmission lines are currently enduring 70-mile-per-hour winds 300 miles away, so you're just going to have to wait.
Yeah, and it was like a rolling blackout type thing, so they were supposedly following the windstorm. But
the other thing, too, is like, I think they told people who were on some sort of life support or needed hospital care, they're like, you're just going to have to go to the hospital. And it's like, who pays for that? Like,
but here's an important exception. Those people had to go to the hospital, but the big tech companies exempted.
Of course.
Yeah, because this is like, Silicon Valley type stuff. And nope, can't shut down those campuses.
It's another situation like RimWorld, really. It's like instead of a solar flare, it's a windstorm, which is a little more disappointing.
Yeah. Security problems are always unpleasant, but they are perhaps most unpleasant when you get that phrase, will not patch.
D-Link home routers open to remote takeover will remain unpatched. And I was hoping that this was a vulnerability that only happened when you're logged into your router. It's not.
Nope. In fact, it allows people to log into your router and run commands, even if they don't have the password. And then they can pull the password.
It's real bad. Scroll down. What models was it? These are end-of-life models.
It's these.
It's the DIR 655, the DIR 866L, 652, and the 1565. So if you're running one of those D-Link products, you're going to need to replace it. It needs to be replaced entirely.
It probably was already time to upgrade, but it is pretty common to just run a router forever, because...
We at Level 1 took care of you. The very first video that we did was on building a router using pfSense, which is a free and open router operating system. You can turn an old PC into a router, so you should go do that right now.
I believe it was the early part of this year, right, when the Supermicro thing happened?
Yep.
It was back during the winter. So there was this big, was it Wall Street Journal? Who was the ones that reported it?
Bloomberg.
So Bloomberg reported that Supermicro had these Chinese spy chips, and they were added to the board after the fact, and it was terrifying, and they were infiltrating everything, and blah, blah, blah. But it was weird because everybody else, including Supermicro and their customers, said, nope, they're not there. We don't have those. And we never really got any closure there.
No.
Yeah, it just kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, so we don't have the proof, but one security researcher says, no, I think it's true because I can do it.
Planting tiny spy chips in hardware can cost as little as $200. A new proof of concept hardware implant shows how easy it may be to hide malicious chips inside IT equipment. So this guy opted not for a Supermicro server, but a Cisco ASA 5505. That is an Atmel AtTiny 85, and he's just piggybacking on the RS-232 serial bus. This hack it's pretty genius, but it's also dead simple. When this device is first powered on, there's not really a password. You can do the password recovery thing. He just goes through, does the password recovery, sets himself up with an admin account, and then as soon as this thing's on the internet, if he can get to it over the internet, he can log in with the admin account that chip added. So it wasn't any kind of modification or compromise of Cisco's software. He's literally using a feature of the software to create an account for himself, and done correctly, an administrator is probably not going to notice that.
Now, you might be thinking, hey, bro, that is not like a grain of rice. That's actually kind of big. It's one of the bigger chips, on that thing. But that's actually not state-of-the-art technology.
No.
That's actually kind of old.
Yeah.
And like he said, $200. So cheap to do. If the Chinese government was doing this, it'd be a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you use sulfuric acid to dissolve the thing there, you could probably get it underneath something else and then just use lacquer to seal it. That's actually been a thing that's like some of the stuff that Edward Snowden leaked is exactly those things. So the Supermicro thing might have been a supply chain attack targeting a specific customer. We don't know.
It's a common trope in fiction that the good guys are actually treated as the bad guys, right? They're hated by authority.
See every Marvel movie.
Yeah, the people they protect are Batman, Spider-Man, Ninja Turtles. The list is unending. It goes on and on. But now we have a new name for that list, a true hero.
A white hack has hacked the Mushtik ransomware gang and released the decryption keys. So this is ransomware, and he was able to break into their ransomware command and control server and dump all of the encryption keys for everybody that had been affected by this. And those are now on the public internet, and he's even written a tool to help you decrypt your stuff. So if you were hit by this ransomware, you can now decrypt your stuff.
I love, I think he was German, right? And
Yeah.
he's got all these broken English tweets. Anybody that tweeted about this, he responded, and he was like, I know what I did was illegal, but I got the keys. Here, go and save yourself. And they do point out that, yes, he did break a law doing this. And he admitted so on Twitter. He was like, I know this was illegal, but I think it's for the best. So, yeah, he was a victim, and he paid. So he not only did he, vigilante and save us, he suffered for our sins.
It's like putting some sort of explosive in the money in the ransomware or a tracking device in the ransomware. It's like we can see where your criminal operation.
A level of petty I aspire to.
Well, once he decrypted, he was able to take apart their code and get the server addresses out of that. And he was like, oh, I can hack that server. So good guy. Maybe send him some Bitcoin or something. We often talk about smart TVs, and your attitude towards smart TVs should be not even once.
A hallmark of the sign of the decay of civilization.
And it seems like everybody is now learning that.
Smart TVs are data collecting machines. A new study shows Roku and Amazon Fire TVs are tracking everything that you do, like everything else. So this is on The Verge. They're just now getting clued into this, but I've got lots of fun, interesting stuff if you still don't believe us.
So these guys, what they did was they bought a smart TV just out of the box, and they were monitoring their network. And they just installed every Roku channel that they could and simulated randomly flipping through the channels, right? And then watched the traffic. And the amount of tracking was just insane. Each of those Roku channels, which is kind of like a little app of its own, had its own tracking.
Neat.
Yeah, disgusting.
What an amazing future we live in.
So yeah, if you have a smart TV, for the love of God, don't let it anywhere near the internet.
How do you think? I think Benjamin Franklin would probably be the only founding father to understand this kind of stuff after 15 or 20 minutes. What do you think he would think about all this? He would just be like, "No, this is a mistake. Just burn it all."
Images appear on this box when you tell it to. That's what he would think.
I didn't think he would freak out about that, but
no, he would be like, where's the militia? Did we wrote an article? We literally we laid out what you do in this situation. What? We should be burning the White House.
Hell, I'll start tally-ho, lads.
I thought we made it pretty clear. I thought, the tree of tyranny and the blood, or the tree of liberty, I mean. Yeah. He would be an enemy of the state. He would be in
Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah. Or what's the other one?
I forgot.
I can't remember the name of the other one. I'm trying to think. So we had Facebook
Portal
was listening to your recordings
and watching you on video with Portal.
Amazon was listening to your recordings. Apple was listening to Siri recordings. Right? What's Google? I think Google got caught doing it too, right? And so the next one in line, obviously, the other big tech company.
Amazon workers may be watching your cloud cam home footage. So teams in India and Romania use video snippets sent by customers for troubleshooting purposes and to train artificial intelligence algorithms. Truly, the darkest timeline.
Now you might be wondering, why would they need to do that? I understand that you're trying to train the AI when I'm asking things questions and it doesn't understand it. Why would they do this? Well, the argument is they want to try and make it safer for false positives for the security part of it. So they compared a cat jumping on a couch to a home invasion. And when the AI can't tell, it sends it off to somebody to watch it.
AI figuring out, I mean, how long before the AI calls the police over somebody's weird, like, sexual thing?
Or you get a text message in the middle of sex and it's like, Dave, that's not your wife. Would you like some numbers for a relationship therapist in your area?
That's really not that far removed from the dude that found out his daughter was pregnant through the advertising catalogs that were sent to her.
Oh, yeah. He was like, why is she getting these pregnancy things? And Target was like, I don't know.
Or all of a sudden he starts seeing like fully furnished efficiency apartments in the nearby area.
It's like, what does the algorithm know? What does it think? All right. We'll see you on Friday for even more nonsense.
Robots and nonsense.
Today is October 18th. It's Friday, so it's nonsense and robots, which is like the two best categories.
And it's so sunny outside.
Is it? I haven't really been out much today.
It's a very pleasant day.
Yeah.
It's like we're actually getting just a little tiny bit of fall.
Before it gets, brutally cold in like a week.
Wasn't there a blizzard in the Midwest somewhere?
Yeah. Yeah, they've got like a ton of snow.
And so much for growing food this year.
I think an early frost destroyed all the potatoes somewhere. So, yeah. Dark times. But let's not think about that. Let's think about robots instead. And let's get excited because those driverless cars, no, totally driverless.
This time.
No humans at all except for the cattle in the back seat.
Waymo customers. Completely driverless Waymo cars are on the way. Right now, the Waymo cars have a human helper pilot, I guess. But soon, the next generation of Waymo is going to be driverless with just an employee in the car. And then after that, presumably, no employee in the car.
No, I think the no employee is what they've announced.
Yeah, that's what they announced, at least in the email.
But that's a ways away.
No, it's like real soon.
Yeah, that's not what the email said.
We'll see.
It's the Phoenix people. They're like, hey, don't get freaked out because the cars are going to start showing up empty.
We'll see.
But it is in that one suburb where all the roads are perfect and
everything's straight and flat.
They're a perfect grid. So, we talk about robots taking jobs, and of course, the transportation industry is the obvious one, right? I mean, self-driving trucks, self-driving cars. It seems kind of terrifying. And you also think of things like food service and stuff like that. We think of robots physically doing a thing, but it turns out that is not the industry that is being most disrupted. And it's kind of surprising, the one that it is.
Goliath is winning. The biggest U.S. banks are set to automate away 200,000 jobs. Turns out banking and finance does employ a lot of people. It requires a lot of people to go over those mortgage things, make sure people aren't committing fraud. It's like, oh, clearly this guy's a drug dealer because of all the cash that he deposits. We need to report that. Yeah, that's going to be all automated now.
They're saying that kiosks in the bank branches and better ATMs are going to make your bank teller pretty much extinct.
I think that, like, they've got a picture of Wells Fargo here. It's like Wells Fargo and Chase and some of those other companies. They may actually be upended by more modern finance companies because, like, all the little games they like to play with, like, fees and overdraft and, like, reordering the transactions. One thing that all of this automation and technology does is make it to where, like, a small bank could actually compete with a huge bank if they don't do the same kind of shenanigans with their app.
Not only that, but once you eliminate all the humans at the branch, why not just bank entirely online?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to trust a soulless money market account, one's as good as the next, right? As long as you're FDIC. And if you got more than, is it 100 grand or 200 now? They've upped it up during the financial crisis. I think it came back down to 100. But just spread it out. unless you're really rich, and then I got no sympathy for you. Just deal with it.
If you're really rich, they're going to find a way to take your money anyway.
Krista, you're a Pinterest girl, right?
I used to be. I don't really use it anymore.
Well, during the time when you did use it, how often did you feel the need to self-harm?
Almost constantly. It was overwhelming. You'd see this cute idea for like fall decor for your home, and then it was like, cut your wrists.
I wonder, do they make like exciting collages of how to hurt yourself?
So Pinterest, like, it follows what you look up, and like it'll suggest things based on things you've looked up before. So I never saw any of this, but I guess it's a problem. I don't know.
I had trouble imagining what it is.
Pinterest says AI reduced reported self-harm content by 88%. I think that's kind of like how Google's bots reduced monetizable content on YouTube by 88%.
Well, it could be too. So Pinterest, it's typically like home decor and like fashion and stuff like that. I wonder if I know Tumblr had this problem for a while. If it was like thinspiration blogs where like girls who were anorexic would post stuff like that, and it's like, this is goals, and it would just be someone unhealthily skinny, like.
So it's not like a GIF on how to braid an organic noose.
Yeah, I don't think so. It was probably something like the thinspiration blogs, but
pure ethically harvested sheep's wool.
For your noose.
I guess that's a good thing. It's
Use different color threads.
Another thing that AI can do that would probably be unpleasant for a person to do.
Yeah.
Oh, this is another dark timeline story.
But you might need
Kafkaesque
context for it. But anyway.
So the headline, what do you want to? I don't know. A RoboCop, a park, and a fight. How expectations about robots are chasing with reality.
Clashing.
Chasing. Yeah, I can't see. My
pulling
glasses
the
are
Krista
dirty.
here.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's hard to read with this stupid thing. I actually could read this article. I didn't get this pop up.
I had some basement water drop on my glasses, so now there's like a
hard water stain.
Basement water, not even once.
Anyway, there's this park that has a robot cone.
It sucks we can't show a picture.
The picture is really nice.
We have. You remember the robot that fell in the fountain? It's that guy.
It looks like the things from
back on patrol
from the Euro show that I don't watch. The
Doctor Who,
one. Yeah,
the Daleks or whatever.
It looks like those things.
It's the Daleks sans plunger, then, if you will. So there was a lady that was assaulted. And so the thing was rolling by, and she ran up to it and
it was a bystander who saw a fight.
An onlooker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And she saw the robot had a button that was like a 911 button.
Yeah. So they pressed the button, and it called not the police, but the robot company. And they were like, no. And then the robot played a little tune and drove away.
No, they didn't answer.
It didn't. Yeah, no one answered. All it said was, "Please move aside, citizen."
Oh, I guess it called the company, but it didn't.
But it was a Saturday.
Yeah, but it did play a song and left.
Yeah, apparently it like plays a song all the time.
It plays that song all day long, which is kind of like its little, I'm a cop song. So the woman pointed out that like the robot kept rolling as she was jamming the 911 button. It was just like, please move
aside.
So they called the cops, and the cops came. They used a phone. What a world where we need a robot when everybody has a phone in their pocket. And during the time that the cops were there taking statements and stuff, the robot just stupidly kept circling.
Well, and it was funny because like they were talking about it, and they're like, we don't actually say what the robot does on the robot because we don't want people to think that it actually is capable of doing anything.
Now, I said they are going to eventually route that to the cops, but
they're paying $70,000 to $80,000 for a robot that just wanders around the park and doesn't do anything.
It wanders around the park 24 hours a day.
Now it does do something, Krista. It records video and audio of everybody who's in the park.
Yeah.
People were saying like, I feel safer with my kids there. And I was like,
yeah. This article talks about like the taco truck driver who said that people feel better having this around. They feel like it's more safe, and it's like,
is it though? Like even if, okay, so yes, it's recording. Yes, it can call the cops, but like it's not going to stop anything from happening. Like,
yeah.
But if you happen to be an undocumented migrant and you run through the park, and the cops search facial recognition for your face, then that could be useful to them. It's not going to make any people
if you're meeting
in the
someone
park.
up on the Facebook Marketplace with your piñata.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not going to help any of the park goers, but it might help the authoritarian regime, and that's what's important. The story was sad and
That's weird.
terrifying and confusing, but this guy, you gotta say, he seemed super excited about it, which is weird.
Terminally ill scientist is about to transform into world's first full cyborg. Peter Scott Morgan, 61, was diagnosed with motor neuron disease about 2 years ago, but instead of, being sad about it, here's the picture where he's going to have his larynx removed because he loses control of like how he swallows and how he speaks. So there's a chance saliva could go in his lungs, and then he gets pneumonia. So they're just going to go ahead and eliminate that.
And then this is his like super space age chair. Now he there's a camera here, and he uses facial recognition to control the chair entirely. Is it just his eyes, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how he wanted to do it, yeah.
That's all he can dependably use. Now, the really creepy part
is his weird boy band face.
Yeah, he wants to upload his brain. Like, eventually, to survive, to beat death, he wants to get his brain in something else somehow.
But his face will eventually, like, the muscles will start to atrophy. So, like, they went on and did a 3D model.
Yeah.
That doesn't look particularly accurate to me, but maybe,
this was
it's
probably
a prototype.
This was probably before he lost a bunch of weight.
Yeah, this says that they modeled it before, yeah.
Look how skinny he is here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's when he had full musculature. And, and he wants to, like, try to offload his brain. It wasn't clear exactly. Oh, that's a pretty good match.
That's from before, the before times. That's the 1.0 version.
Listen, Krista, when you make your avatar for your cyborg, you're going to make it as hot as you want it to be. Yeah. Why? Why accept your imperfections in the cyborg world?
Think like Weird Al versus Weird Al as Conan the Librarian from UHF.
Yes.
Yeah, that's something that everybody can relate to.
Yeah, that's a really weirdly specific reference.
So anyway, this guy is super excited about abandoning his body, which is failing him, and becoming fully cybernetic. Although it's probably not quite as fully cybernetic. It occurred to me as hilarious because the picture here is that's his husband. So they're a married gay couple. And you got to think that futuristic gay cyborgs have to be the most terrifying thing in the world to like the Fox News generation, right? It's like, I knew it. I knew it was going to happen.
It's a slippery slope.
I think the Saturday Night Live skit had it best with, every old person knows that robots run on old people's medicine, so you need to get Old Glory robot insurance.
And they didn't even know they were going to be gay. Yeah. Gymnastics. Did young Krista ever have an interest in gymnastics?
No, I was not good at it. I had some friends who were in gymnastics, and I would like go to their practices with them and like try to do the balance beam, and I was not good at it.
But did you ever dream of being on the Olympic stage?
I didn't dream of ever doing anything sports related.
Okay.
I played softball for a few years, and I was very bad at it.
I bet you were a right fielder.
No, I was like, they put me as far out in the outfield as they could because I just watched the Ducks.
That's
I didn't
as far
care.
as you can get.
Yeah.
I too had problems paying attention.
Yeah.
So, gymnastics. It's very subjective, right? It's scored based on what the judges think. But apparently, that's not good enough.
Computer-assisted judging is being tested at gymnastics world championships. So it looks like the computers are modeling the
ideal
motions that the gymnast goes through in order to see how on form and how symmetrical they are. That seems insane. Like, if you watch Olympic videos from like the 1950s versus what's happening today, it's incredible.
I'm sorry, young lady. Your 20-year trip from childhood to your one chance at the Olympics is we're going to have to take a point off your score because you were 1 degree off with the bend of your leg there. Now, you say the modeling, you have to submit to modeling your entire body before you go into Olympic gymnastics.
How long before they wear a tracker suit? I wonder if we'll see like Andy Serkis competing.
What about those little balls?
Yeah.
Like when they do the motion capture. That'd be cool.
That's a 2-for-1 thing because they could do the balls for motion capture, but then they could also substitute what clothes the gymnast is wearing according to whoever paid the most ad dollars. So like if Coke wants to take out ads, it could be like she could be wearing a dress like a Coke, and it would have realistic physics because you're tracking the little balls.
And you could, when you're watching on your smart TV, for 99 cents, you could buy different outfits.
Oh, yeah.
And put on the gymnast.
Exciting.
Truly, the darkest timeline.
Drink verification can.
Well, speaking of the darkest timeline, Disney classics. Remember back when Disney made actual cartoons and like actually animated them, and that was the best ones because that's when I was a kid? Well, we forever lost those days. But the bad thing about those days was the darkness that was hiding in those movie scripts. We didn't even know it. We're too stupid to know. But now we will be protected thanks to the computers.
The 9 News reports that artificial intelligence technology is going to review Disney scripts for gender bias. This is going forward, but they've got a picture of Ariel, of course. I'm looking forward to the timeline where like Wall-E is banned for like fat shaming because that's just so ridiculous.
I don't understand how an AI could understand the nuance of this. Like,
Well,
you know what I mean?
I don't think it's going to be that particularly advanced. They talked about so male and female characters, which can we really assign that these days?
They kind of talk about that.
Well, and like, how does a movie like Mulan rank? Because that whole movie is like tearing apart like the trope of like the good, dutiful daughter, and then she like dresses up like a man. Like, how does that score?
But they talk about like lines, right? How many men have speaking lines versus how many women have speaking lines? Is there an overwhelming imbalance in that? Although, what if you have a movie that's based in like World War II?
Have we seen what happens with that in video games?
Do we have to gender bend and
like the video games get really weird?
Or more cynically, like, what if your movie is catering to a young female audience? Like, wouldn't that be better if your female characters had more lines? Like, or vice versa, if it's like a movie that's geared more toward boys. Like,
do you think there's still surveillance footage of when movies like Amelie came out in theaters? It's just like 12-year-old girls and like really greasy 35-year-old and older dudes just in the audience together with nobody in between. That would be really weird.
Yeah. I think there's still a lot of that. I mean, My Little Pony.
The same demographic.
So we talk about self-driving cars like the Waymo, and it's interesting that even when you watch those Tesla videos, the car still makes the movements, like the steering wheel moves and the pedals move, like it's actually actuating the controls. Because we're still sort of in that paradigm of like, no, it can drive itself, but this is still a car as we think of it. And this company says we don't need any of that. There's no reason to put a human in this car.
Scania AXL? Is that how you pronounce that?
Scania or Scania? I'm not sure.
Know.
A fully autonomous concept truck without a cab. It's all robot.
Look at it. Krista, rate it.
So I looked at these pictures and I was like, it looks too clean. Like, especially for the environment it's in, it almost feels like it's photoshopped in. Like,
they probably put those gravel in it and then washed it again.
Yeah, that's how it looks.
Is this some dude trying to get startup money? Is that what this is?
Well, I think this company's already doing some autonomous stuff, but this is an experimental model. And I guess it makes sense,
I feel like if this was a toy truck, it'd be very popular with my 3-year-olds. They would really like it.
But what if the truck works, but the AI component breaks down? How do you drive it back?
Manual remote control.
I guess
That'd be really cool.
Well, I guess you could like plug something into it and sit on top of it there.
Yeah,
OSHA would not be approving of that. Oh, this is Australia though. Whatever their version of OSHA is. So, I don't know. It looks cool. I like the look of it.
it is pretty. I like the color.
Although, like, is that a cut right there? Is that a style cut?
Yeah, it looks like they've done like a very... It looks like the fractal meshify case put on the side of a truck.
But how much dust is going to get in these lines?
Yeah, it's going to be a mess.
Maybe this can tip back. I don't know. More automation. We talked about, the Hong Kong protest and Overwatch and all that stuff, and Krista's not committing to it because she hates the people of Hong Kong. But Krista, will you get behind the reinvention of May?
Yeah, because I like the memes. Protesters are trying to get Overwatch banned in China using memes of popular hero May. This didn't show a lot of pictures, did it, in this article? Scroll down some.
May is one of the characters from Overwatch that
and
you
she's
can play.
Chinese.
Yeah.
And one of her, so this is funny when you play the game, one of her opening lines is, the world's worth fighting for. Surprised they haven't cut that out yet.
I think they might have enhanced her bust a bit.
Just a little. There was one that was really good that was like using her in-game model. That's it. Or that's actually from one of the shorts where they put the mask over her. It's quite convincing. Oh, look, they even did Snowball, her little robot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, these memes are great.
They're really good.
I mean, this one's low quality.
Yeah.
But I still like it. So, yeah, May is now a symbol of independence.
They're trying to get Overwatch banned in China. They'll probably succeed because there have been a bunch of other things that have been banned in China over less.
You know what I want to see? I want to see some May Pepe collaboration memes.
Wouldn't it be amazing to have a hacked version of Overwatch where Pepe was a playable character?
Well, why couldn't the little floaty thing be Pepe?
Some people, so they have like new workshop stuff where you can do, I don't know if anyone's done custom models yet for the workshop stuff, but maybe that's coming.
Here on Earth, we like to measure accomplishments by money, right? The more money you got, the more respect you get down here. But out there in the rest of the solar system, it's all about moons. Who's got the most?
Saturn has overtaken Jupiter to host as host to most moons in solar system. God, I can't read today. What's wrong with me? The gas giant has 82 moons, surpassing the 79 known to orbit its larger neighbor.
Jupiter's really having a rough year. Like the big red dot is also, like they say, it's becoming less intense. And now this. It's a bad time to be a Jupiter.
The dot is probably its self-confidence. And it was like, I know you've got more moons, and soon everybody will know because of the Guardian. So, rip Jupiter.
Poor Jupiter.
Maybe if you tried harder, you'd have more moons.
Boys go there to get more stupider.
What?
You didn't do that, like, playground taunt?
No.
You go to Mars to get more candy bars, and then whoever your adversary is goes to Jupiter to get more stupider.
That sounds like something a marketing agency would have come up with.
It was popular in the 90s when I was a kid.
Yeah, I'm sure the marketing agencies are focusing a lot on the playground dollar.
Yeah.
We will sell more Mars bars. Get on this.
Can you buy Mars bars anymore?
I couldn't buy them when I was a kid. I used to get confused when I'd see references to them in books.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wow. I was like, what's a Mars
I thought they were
bar?
available in those days.
I don't remember them.
You can still get them at Cracker Barrel.
Oh, can you? Yeah, I bet you can other places too. Well, we talk a lot about the apocalypse because it seems... It's funny because I read a thing about how every human culture, even before we met each other, we all have one thing in common. We've all predicted the end of the world. So maybe it's not as bad as we think. Maybe it's just part of our human nature to expect the end of things. But it's fun to think about games like Fallout, and you got to ask yourself, if you love technology, what's a world without that going to look like? And one guy is working toward preserving it.
Collapse OS is an open source operating system for the post-apocalypse. The operating system is designed to work with ubiquitous, easy to scavenge components in a future where consumer electronics are a thing of the past. So right now, the operating system is not targeting even really desktop computers, but like the embedded processors that are in like basically everything. Because after some sort of collapse, I mean, it seems like if there's a massive reduction in population, we would probably be able to, use regular computers, but maybe something will break and you have to like reprogram the microcontroller.
Not if it's nuclear.
That's what this does.
The only thing I could think about reading this story was like, man, I can't wait to shoot this guy and steal his resources.
But this really isn't a computer in the way that we think of it. It's just a programmer for these chips. And he points out that he used one of the simplest and most common chips that you could get out of like cashier. What's the word that I'm thinking of? I can't.
Point of sale machines.
Registers. Cash registers.
Wow.
The Sega Genesis ran this chip. Several calculators have it, and a lot of non-computer electronics. So you'll be able to get in there and pull that chip out and actually program it using his system. I don't know what you run his system on. I guess you have a computer.
Yeah, I don't. This is okay. Like that's just.
But
how
it makes
I felt
sense.
reading
Like,
it.
what if you had the one computer and people could bring their scrap to you and you could return them working microcontrollers?
Or I go in there with a gun. Or he's desperate for food. Like
It depends on how far
society
society's collapsed.
collapses. Yeah.
Yeah, this might be good for like 3 years in when you've settled.
Can you imagine though if something happens to like the world chip fabrication? So you got Intel, TSMC, and Samsung; those are gone. But then a lot of universities have microchip fabrication facilities. And is there a world where like your local state university, because they can make 68 nanometer microprocessors, they're all of a sudden at the top of the economic food chain for the area because no one thought to bomb the big bears.
But what about actual food? Like that's.
Yeah, well, I think whatever power structure rises up or remains just takes that over. Because those are big buildings, easily defendable,
Yeah.
nice little, so there's not going to be any higher learning happening there.
Build a wall around the university.
This is the most disappointing story of the week, and I'm going to
It
apologize up front. Because of the paywall, we don't even have a picture of these pigs, and that's really the whole story, right?
It is.
China's breeding giant pigs that are as big and heavy as polar bears.
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing here.
That's really all there is to it, and the picture of the pig would be the big point where it's like, wow, look at those absolute units. But we don't have one.
We really should have cut the story, but
Yeah.
we didn't plan.
Maybe, we
Well-
can make the thumbnail.
Well, China's got a pork shortage right now. They need about 10 million more tons of pork, and there's just nowhere to get it.
I'm sure nothing bad can happen from modifying pigs to be 10 times their normal size. Here's a pro-criminal tip. People love the pro-criminal tips. Now, I'm going to give you two. And they work in concert, but they work alone as well. If you're going to murder somebody, don't film it. That's number one.
Hot
Number
tip.
two, if you can't help yourself and you have to film it, don't label the memory card homicide.
A memory card found on the street labeled homicide leads to the arrest of the alleged killer. And this is a story. I mean, it's terrible, and the person died, and this really did happen, and it's awful. But this story ticks pretty much every box of like technology used to apprehend the killer, starting from the memory card. So like the police worked backwards from the memory card. They looked at like where the hotel was, because I think that was also labeled. And then
They used his mobile phone ping.
Yeah, and the mobile phone not only pinged at the hotel, but also at the place where the memory card was found and where the body was.
The cameras in the parking lot caught his license plate.
Yeah, and same car, and the vehicle appeared in the video, not the license plate, but the make and model. And so like, there's just this guy's gone away for a long, long time. Probably killed other people too.
I got to think if
And he
you're
would have
filming
gotten
it,
away with it too.
you probably don't film your first murder, right?
This was Alaska.
So
Oh, of course it was.
at least it wasn't Alabama this week. Sometimes we include stories just because they are so ridiculous. And this one, to defend the guys that made these, they made it as sort of a statement to how ridiculous it was. But then they still sold it.
Jesus Shoe, a $3,000 sneaker filled with holy water, has sold out in minutes. The creative label MSCHF, like mischief. See, that's what they were. They're in Brooklyn. Of course, they're in Brooklyn. Where else would they be?
So this little reservoir down here is full of water from the Jordan River,
I'm sure.
Which
Definitely not from
which has been
tap
consecrated.
water. Yeah.
This is the Bible verse where Jesus walked on the water. You get this little cross bound into the laces here. And the inside sole is red, which is supposed to mimic the Catholic priest's shoes. They made,
Oh, sorry. You continue.
they made 12 pair, $3,000 a piece. They're sold out.
They should have included the verse where Jesus went into the temple when they were selling things they weren't supposed to, and he started whipping people through the streets and turning over the tables.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, they were trying to make a statement, I guess, but if you're the person who buys it, do you think that's going to appreciate in value, or are you really into the holy water?
The real question is, do you think Kanye bought a pair?
I think this agency just got its rent through the end of the year in New York, Brooklyn.
No way. That's, what, 30 grand? Well, yeah, I guess that might be through the end of the year. So, we have a lot of predators online. That's not news.
I thought you were going to say on our forums. We have a lot of predators on our forums.
We've gotten that cleaned up, maybe.
They've not been convicted. I'm not saying they're not there, but it's out there, and it seems like these predators are actually not viewers of Level 1 News, right? Because they never take any precaution with their communications. They always get caught because they do something really, really stupid. But in this case, I am going to blame the victim. Yes, the victims were the idiots in this case.
A group of teen girls, what could possibly go wrong, tries to set a trap for an alleged pedophile. One of them ends up being kidnapped. So these girls set up a meeting with this guy in a parking lot because they thought he had been sleeping with underage girls. And
they literally were trying to set up a sting.
Yeah, and so he drove off with one of them. He was like, no, just get in the car, we'll talk. And then he just drove away. And
the girl was like, what could go wrong?
Yeah, the other girls were like, wait, that was our friend. and so they called the police. And the police immediately pulled him over and was like, what are you doing? So this is probably a developing story.
I'm sure like that was probably scary for those girls, but at the same time, I wonder if they were like, that was technically a success. The police did catch him.
And we had there was a lot of fun. We got our names in the paper. Yeah, they're doing this again. I understand the word alleged has to be used until there's a conviction, but I think it's really like, we've got some solid evidence against this guy. First of all, agreed to meet with teen girls. Second of all, lured one into his car. And third, abducted.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He's just like, I'll just give them a little scare.
There are YouTube channels. They may have been banned in the adpocalypse. I haven't seen them for years, but it's guys who just do this all day long. So they disguise their voice, or they use the filters or whatever, and then they'll arrange a meeting with a guy, and then they'll just show up and shame him and film it. And that's the entire channel content. So, we've been talking about vaping a lot on Level 1 News. God, it's fun to talk
Mostly
about.
just because Ryan enjoys baiting people in the comments.
It's fun because that topic drives engagement, and the algorithm mistakenly thinks that we should...
But it just drives engagement with the vapors, which is not what we want. I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot here, right? But this week, it's not about vaping being dangerous inherently, but what can happen when you're in the vape culture.
Botched vape pod deal in a Whole Foods parking lot leads to a kidnapping and gun charges. So a North Andover man was allegedly chased a juvenile and his car and fired a gun at the ground in the Whole Foods parking lot. The dude was arrested. He was trying to sell THC-laced vape pods to these kids. The kids tried to take them without paying for them. He may have shot into the ground, or he definitely shot into the ground. We don't know. He's been arrested. So
here's another pro-criminal tip. If you're selling vape pods to teens, don't bring a gun.
Well, listen, you got to protect your supply, right?
That's a felony. You're going away for a long time. Yeah, these kids try to run away with the THC vapes, and this guy wasn't having it. Also, in the Whole Foods parking lot, is that the best place? Because there's cameras everywhere.
Well, it's the only place their parents would drop them off at. So.
Oh, that's a good point.
I want to go eat at the Whole Foods buffet, pick up some vape pods. It's like, those are the things that are killing people.
And it is the THC vape pods, too. I mean, you're taking your life in your hands in two different ways. First of all, you're going to get shot with this shady drug dealer that you're trying to rip off. And second of all, your lungs are going to get fried when you get at home. So, wow.
Reckless.
SpongeBob, everybody loves him, right? No, not everybody. Some people hate him.
SpongeBob is a violent, racist colonizer, says University of Washington professor. It was like,
this is a hot take.
How is he going to get there? And it's actually a very imaginative explanation for the residents of Bikini Bottom and like how everything is. And it's the guy has a lot of imagination to be able to think up these kinds of things.
Was it a guy?
He really should be writing fan fiction.
This is not the guy.
Oh, I thought that was the guy.
No. I think it was a woman.
Oh.
So here's the connection. If you're wondering, okay, that seems...
Holly M. Barker. Sorry.
That's a big stretch. How do we get there? Well, the first connection is Bikini Bottom. And I don't know... Krista and I were talking about this. I don't know
the lore.
The canon. Maybe this is true, maybe it's not. But she connects the Bikini Atoll, where we tested our nuclear weapons, with Bikini Bottom. She thinks those are the same places.
Except I used to watch the show when I was a kid. Like, I don't think that there's any connection, at least not made in the show.
The residents of Bikini Bottom were also forcibly evicted, which is something she...
Bikini Atoll, not Bikini Bottom.
Well, yeah.
I was going to say, I don't remember that in any episode.
Now, here is my my take on this. SpongeBob is a sea sponge, is he not?
Well, it's the nuclear fallout that's caused the mutation here.
But as a sea sponge, he would be a native.
But he's mutated because sea sponges don't talk and wear pants.
But he was born, presumably, on the seafloor in this area.
His
right?
parents are in the show. Yeah, they.
Listen, his existence is pain and misery, which is entirely our fault.
If there
that's Squidward.
If there is one invader, it's the squirrel, right?
Yes, she's from Texas.
But I don't think SpongeBob himself, and his friend is a starfish, right? And then there's the squid and the crab. These are all sea creatures.
So I think that her fan fiction is clearly AU. Alternate universe. Like, it's not
Okay,
not canon.
let's take it a step further then. She says it's whitewashing of American military activities. Do we know that SpongeBob is white? He's a sponge.
I think it's white.
She might mean whitewashing in that this...
Like, it's not that bad, yeah.
This array of mutated creatures is actually a good thing from the race.
So it's not a racial term.
Is it canon that these are mutated creatures?
No, it's not. It's literally like, I don't think there's any connection to the atoll that they're talking about, and it's literally just sea creatures.
There were two things I was thinking as reading this. Is like, one, for God's sakes, nobody introduced this professor to any of the writings or artwork of H.R. Geiger. And for another one, what about things like Gummy Bears or David the Gnome or any of the other cartoons? Like, how would you explain those?
Gummy Bears?
Yeah, is there a universe for Gummy Bears?
Is there a Gummy Bear cartoon?
Yeah, it was literally created by the candy company to...
I love that picture of the gummy bears in comparison to the gummy worms, and it was like, when you compare the sizes of these, it paints a horrifying picture of the gummy universe.
They were the gummy bear cartoon was kind of like True Value Care Bears.
Oh. Faded glory.
So anyway, yeah, I don't know. It seems like quite a bit of a stretch. I think Bikini Bottom is just a fun name they came up with.
Yeah. Well, because there's another one that's like something top, I think. Oh no, maybe it's Rock Bottom. There's another town that they visit. It's on the deep sea floor.
Well, I bet there's some like embedded hate and racism in that.
There's a joke in that episode where like SpongeBob's trying to go to the bathroom, but like all the sea creatures on that part of the seafloor are very strange. And he's like, I don't even know which bathroom to go into. And this was years ago, like years before any of like that whole movement started. So I'm sure some people have been offended by that.
That's like, there's a staggering amount of predictions that The Simpsons made, including Trump as president.
Also, the Lisa as the angry 12-year-old at Trump.
As Greta.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cartoons, they always get it right.
Family Guy predicted Osama bin Laden.
Well, but that one was kind of easy to do. I mean, he was well known. Krista, what's your favorite Overwatch team?
I don't really watch Overwatch League, but I would probably say, I don't know, the Shanghai Dragons, because they're the underdog, and they also have Guguri.
And yet you have no support for the people of Hong Kong.
Yes.
I bet those are mainland China, aren't they? Wow, Krista.
It's Shanghai, yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, will you be buying a jersey?
No, I don't care enough about it. I don't even watch the games, but if I had to pick a team, that's probably who I'd pick.
So, and then my final question, and this is the biggest question: how great is this logo?
I've had some people say that it looks kind of like a uterus, but
well, yeah,
a little, yeah.
Okay, the eggs are a little sharp.
Yeah, just a little.
Headline.
Oh, sorry. School bans Houston Outlaws Overwatch League jersey for promoting violence, because there are technically guns in the logo.
Now, are those guns that one of the characters actually uses?
Yes, they absolutely are.
Yeah, it could be considered like McCree's gun.
I mean, every model is different, right? Every skin.
Yeah.
But yeah, those do seem like, West guns.
Well, yeah, it's for Houston, the city of Houston.
So yeah, kid wore that to school.
Nope.
And was sent home because those are guns.
And he only wore the jersey because it was like a school spirit week, and one of the things was
Team week.
It was team day.
Or
so like
team,
each
okay.
day has a different theme, and this one was like sports team day. So he wore his favorite sports team, and got in trouble. Do you think people who wore like Redskin logos think they got in trouble, or was it just this guy?
You know what? I bet there is a lot more chance of gun violence for the Redskins team than there is for the Houston Outlaws team. Yeah, but that's a sad state of affairs that we live in. Also, I mean, it's a video game where almost everybody has a gun.
Yeah.
So
These are some sort of futuristic space pistols, though. So.
Maybe the teacher was upset because they got Fan the Hammered one too many times.
She got stunned.
Yeah.
We've talked on and on about Musk and his pedo guy controversy, and it amazes me that it just keeps getting more and more outrageous as more facts are uncovered. I mean, what a stupid thing he did.
Elon Musk pressured Thai officials to say nice things about his mini-subs in the midst of a deadly rescue mission. This ongoing case with the guy that he accused of being a pedo is just going to be an endless series of gold nuggets for the next few weeks.
He should have paid.
Yeah.
It's just astounding that it's like there are lives in the balance and you're more concerned about good PR for your company.
So this is about him getting his underlings to go to the Thai government and try and hassle them into making press releases about what a great guy he is and how smart he is for coming up with his stupid sub while they were trying to rescue the cave boys.
Which they did successfully, not with the help of Elon Musk.
Including the scammer that he hired as like the ex-Navy SEAL guy who was none of those things.
Yeah.
So it's just, there's so many layers to this.
I think that would have been like, he doesn't need this elaborate defense. I mean, this talks about how like he's sort of trying to claim every possible defense. I think that Elon Musk should have just gone for I hired a felon as a PR guy. He told me all this stuff. I didn't know. Mea culpa, my bad. But this guy's the guy that told me all this stuff. He should have done that.
Yeah, but all of his tweets.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he should write a check.
Yeah.
That's going to be the least painful thing. Although he would have to admit he's wrong.
And that is the most painful thing. Yeah.
So.
He would rather fight this in court.
I like what he's doing in some cases, but I mean, really think about this man's going to take us to the stars.
This man's going to take us to the stars.
Fail fast.
And make that guy that wanted to help those kids a millionaire. So it's probably okay.
He did help those kids. His knowledge of the cave system helped them actually figure out how to get into where they were.
I think we've talked about this before, but it's truly the darkest timeline is where Musk pays this guy off, and this guy uses that money to buy a ladyboy.
He has a girlfriend.
Listen, if this universe were like, Musk is going to make you a millionaire, but he's going to publicly like make fun of you or like say terrible things about you, I'm fine with that.
You would do that?
Yeah, probably.
I let him call me a pedo for $1 million.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. What do I care? Tweet me all day, Elon. Bring it. It's been a while since we had a challenge. What was the last one? Was it the hot water? No.
The thing that I didn't understand about this story was the Chewbacca costume.
Yeah, that makes no sense. Well, he's just an idiot. I mean, look at him. Look at this moron.
Michigan boy suffers second-degree burns in fire challenge. The fire challenge is you set yourself on fire.
And see how long you can deal with it?
You've seen people like they'll dip their finger in an alcohol-based fuel and then light it, and then you don't feel it as long as the alcohol is burning because it's that what's the effect where the
Leidenfrost?
Yeah, where the evaporation creates a shield between you and your. So they actually did it successfully one time, and of course, after you do it successfully, what do you do next?
You have to do it again and again.
Well, no, you step it up. So apparently, whoever was operating the spray bottle filled with the alcohol just kept spraying. Yeah. And it resulted in some second-degree burns.
I feel like this is something like my husband might have done as a child. Because like he casually mentioned me once they like set a dumpster on fire. And I was like, what?
Well,
He's like, it was fine. We got it out. And I was like, but who was supposed to be? He's like, my mom just let me run around in the neighborhood. We just set a dumpster on fire. Like,
oops.
Yeah.
Although what he didn't have was the audience, right? Because these guys are putting it on YouTube and streaming it and stuff.
Did they
like
record
that.
it?
Yeah, I think so.
The algorithm loves content like this.
Sadly, yeah. Especially if you're in a stupid Chewbacca costume.
The algorithm is literally like, look, if you want to make $1,000 off of YouTube this month, you're just going to have to set yourself on fire.
This image just like say 1,000.
But you can't get monetized before you do the challenge. So you got to do one challenge to get up there to get monetized. Then you got to top it with another challenge. That's the thing.
YouTube's like the reverse Spider-Man. The first one's free. Everybody gets one. I don't know.
Well, it's the first taste is always free.
So yeah, don't set yourselves on fire.
Yeah. Pro tip.
Unless you're protesting the Chinese government,
don't
set yourself on fire.
What kind of pro tip is that? Like pro-life tip?
I don't even know.
I don't know either.
This
Common
is one of the
sense.
darkest stories we've ever done. And it just goes to show you how weird and creepy things get in this world. And how you always have to protect yourself, even when you're not thinking about it.
Obsessed fan finds Japanese idol's home by zooming in on her eyes. And we would laugh if this was just like weird creepiness, but no, dude actually assaulted her.
Yeah, like he waited for her, found her, and assaulted her.
I think they have, yeah. So here he is, creeping in her building, waiting for her. So I don't know if this was the picture, but she tweeted, I think it was, she tweeted this picture. In the reflection of one of her eyes, there is a bus stop. This guy recognized the bus stop. But wait, there's more. He measured the angle of the shadows to determine which floor she's on in her building.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was waiting for her when she got home and assaulted her.
So pro tip, don't do that if you're into those kind of things.
I don't know
Posting
how
on social media?
Maybe
you
just send him like a tweet and it's like, hey, I really enjoy your work, and then just leave it at that.
Oh no, you're talking about the girl, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I think this guy had tried to make contact with her, and she went to the authorities, and they were like, don't worry about it.
Well, it turns out there was something to worry about. I thought this was actually, there was another story like this week, although not as bad. And it was a bathwater gamer girl. She had a party and somebody stole her hamster, and she was arrested because she figured out who it was and went to get it back.
I saw that picture. I didn't realize that was her.
Yeah.
It was like, give my hamster back, you bitch, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one was funnier. We should have included that one.
It had a Pepe on it.
Yeah. So,
yeah, that's...
I think she's much more clever than her online pictures would lead you to believe.
But so it turns out that this girl was one of those, not K-pop, but what do they call the Japanese ones?
J-pop.
Is it J-pop?
Yeah.
There is a support group for J-pop and ex-J-pop girls because they get stalked so hard in Japan. Yeah. Dark.
It's ridiculous that she went to the police and they still didn't do anything. Like,
yeah, the police were probably like, nah, I wouldn't worry. I mean, he would have to like get the information from your eyes and the angle of the sun. He's never going to do that. Don't worry.
he probably has a job and other healthy hobbies that he occupies his time with.
She was at least able to defend herself, which is good. So there's a tiny ray of happy ending there.
Yeah. Well, that kind of man might not have the physical prowess for proper assaulting. That's, I guess, the silver lining. This is my favorite story, maybe of the year. It's got nothing to do with technology, but God, just the picture of this guy.
Well, the CCTV, yeah.
Wait till you see the picture of this cat.
The headline is, male cat needs a glucose drip after mating with 5 females in one night at the pet hotel. Now, the pet hotel employees were really quick to point out that
Look how happy.
the CCTV camera,
He's such a good kitty.
they only saw 5 instances on the CCTV camera. There may have been more.
Look how fat he is. Oh, I love him. Who's a pudgy boy? It's him.
This guy went to, he was boarded because the owner went on vacation. He is a purebred Russian blue. He is not fixed because he is a purebred. That's a valuable set of testicles right there. And now the owner claims that they told the boarder, like, hey, look, he's not fixed. Take precautions. Precautions were not taken. Now, some of these female cats were also not fixed. So there was a big dust up. Like, who's responsible here, right? The boarders blamed the guy for not telling them. He says he did. He blames them for letting the cat loose. The female cat owners are blaming everybody because,
But fortunately, there was CCTV footage of the incident, so, it can work itself out that way.
So I don't quite understand this, but it seems like the female cat owners have agreed they will pay the sum of like, what, $200 or one kitten if there happened to be a conception here, because his seed is so valuable.
It's a stud fee.
And they will have those purebred Russian blue babies. Oh, God, look at him.
He's so happy.
I feel like
he would be cute even without the funny story. Like, look how just chubby he is.
I feel like the Kitten Academy needs to set up a new room in their house.
Yeah, well, when you graduate from the Kitten Academy, you lose your testicles. But yeah, poor guy was exhausted. Needed a little pick-me-up.
A glucose drip.
Expending himself all night. I mean, like, imagine you're that cat and you have to go back to the normal world of just living in that house. It's like, hey, bro, when are we going to do that one thing again?
Well, I was going to say, it probably actually, like, for the pet owner, it's like, oh, I need to board my cat this weekend, and the cat's, like, ready to go. It, like, runs into the carrier.
He brings out the kitty carrier, and the cat's like, yep, I'm ready again. Hey, pick up some glucose. I'm going for 8 this time. I've been training.
That's it for this week.